Chapter 23:23. You should know, even if the two of them went all out, they might not be as fast as Ningyu in killing the heavenly demon. Should we attack? Zhao looked at the battlefield, then back at Mo. What else can we do? Mo's face was not looking good. Actually, Mo, he wasn't afraid of these peak Saint immortal heavenly fiends. What worried him the most was Rong Tianjun. It was no exaggeration to say that. The outcome of their battle did not have much of an impact on the final result. Even if they won, they would not be able to help Rong Tianjun. After all, Heavenly Lord Rong's opponent was Ming Hao, who was at the peak of the Heavenly Lord realm. Furthermore, besides Ming Hao, there were two old men in brocade robes who had gone to Kuinsu City. Although the old man's cultivation base wasn't as high as Ming Hao's, he was still at the late stage of Heavenly Monarch. Save me, ancestor. While Mo was deep in thought, he suddenly heard a cry for help. Without a doubt, it was the genius of the Mo clan asking for help. The two prodigies of the Mo clan were ranked top 500 on the Heaven Monarch substitute list. Their combined strength was extremely terrifying. However, no matter how terrifying their strength was, they could not withstand the large number of heavenly demons. Facing such a large heavenly fiend army, the Mo family's two geniuses both fell into a bitter struggle. Damn it! Mo, he cursed under his breath and rushed forward, wanting to rescue the two geniuses of the Mo family. Pucci! Pucci! However, Mo, he had just made his move when he discovered that the two geniuses of the Mo family were drowned in the heavenly demon army. Ka. The sudden change made Mo, his face extremely ugly. He clenched his fists, making cracking sounds. Due to his anger, Mo's veins bulged all over his body, and his face was abnormally hideous. Initially, when he saw the death of the Su clan's genius and the disappearance of the Zhao clan's genius, Mo, he thought that the Mo clan's opportunity to rise had arrived. After all, the two geniuses of the Mo family were still alive. But now, seeing the Mo family's genius die in battle with his own eyes, Mo, he was furious to the extreme. You all deserve to die. The furious Mo immediately rushed out and charged into the heavenly demon army. Rumble. All kinds of spells flew. Mo did not hold back at all. In order to avenge the genius of the Mo family, he used all the power he could muster. Pu. In just a few seconds, more than 10 heavenly demons at the peak of the Saint Immortal stage were killed by him. So desperate, seeing how ruthless Mo was, Zhao's eyes revealed a look of surprise. Fine, you've saved me a lot of trouble by risking your life. The corners of Zhao Hai's mouth rose as he joined the battle. What was different from Mo was that Mo was going all out, even using all of his strength. But Zhao Hai only used 30% of his strength. He didn't want to be meritorious. He just wanted to protect himself. This was what Zhao Hai thought. Whoosh, whoosh. But soon, Zhao's thoughts changed. There was no other reason. Two figures sped over from afar. These two figures were not strangers. It was the embroidered, clothed old man who had just left. Both of them were at the late-stage Heavenly Monarch realm. As soon as they appeared, they launched a powerful attack on Zhao and Mo. Actually, it was very simple. There were only 3 Heavenly Lords present. While Rong Tianjun was fighting Ming Hao, Zhao Hai and Mo, he became the old man's targets. Coincidentally, there were 2 old men in brocade robes and 2 Heavenly Lords, one each, no more and no less. What bad luck! Zhao Hai was so angry that his nose was crooked. He originally wanted to mingle around, but the sudden appearance of the embroidered, clothed old man made him completely dispel the idea of mingle around. His idea had changed from messing around to running away. Go! Zhao Hai took out a black bead and threw it at the old man. Boom! When the black bead was about to reach the old man, it suddenly exploded. Run! Seeing the black bead explode, Zhao Hai hurriedly tore the void, trying to escape. However, Zhao Hai had obviously underestimated the old man's strength. He was a late-stage Heavenly Lord after all. Even if he detonated the black bead, which was enough to kill a middle-stage Heavenly Lord martial artist, it would not be of much use. Bang! A moment ago, the old man tore the void and went in. The next moment, the old man dashed out of the void and punched Zhao Hai's chest. Crack! The sound of ribs breaking rang out. Like a kite with a broken string, Zhao flew straight back. Whoosh! He succeeded in one move. How could the old man stop? His figure flashed, and he rushed out again. Almost in the blink of an eye, the embroidered-robed old man appeared in front of Zhao Hai, blocking his path of retreat. What do you want? Zhao Hai looked at the old man coldly and said, apart from Rong Tianjun, the strongest person in this area is Ningyu. Why do you have to target me? Don't worry. After I get rid of you, it won't be too late to deal with Ningyu. The old man's expression was calm. He clenched his right fist and suddenly punched. Damn it! Seeing that he couldn't convince the old man, Zhao Hai directly cursed. Fight! Gritting his teeth, Zhao Hai did not hesitate to burn his blood essence to increase his strength, choosing to fight head-on with the old man. Crack! Even though Zhao Hai burned his blood essence, the result did not change much. Several of his ribs broke again. Poochie! Zhao Hai spat out a mouthful of blood. His aura instantly dropped from the peak of the early stage Heavenly Lord Realm to around half-step Heavenly Lord Realm. Moreover, and it was still dropping. Don't force me. Zhao Hai wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and took out a white bead from his bosom. Hiss! Seeing the white bead in Zhao Hai's hand, the old man sucked in a breath of cold air. Compared to the black bead, the white bead gave him a feeling of unease. Let me go, or I will detonate it. Zhao Hai held the white bead tightly and said fiercely, you should know what it is. Once it is detonated, both you and I will die. Swish! The old man's face was gloomy. He knew very well that even if Zhao Hai exaggerated, he would be affected if he detonated the white bead. For a moment, the old man and Zhao Hai were in a deadlock. Neither side flinched. They both stared at each other. Bang! However, just as they were staring at each other, the battle between Mo He and the other old man had ended. The result was obvious. Mo He was naturally not the old man's opponent. Even though Mo He used all his strength and used all kinds of trump cards, he was still easily defeated by the old man. If it was not for Ning Yu's help at the critical moment, Mo He would have been killed. Not dead yet. Zhao Hai glanced at Mo He, who was saved by Ning Yu, and a cold look appeared in his eyes. Whoosh! It was this brief distraction that made Zhao Hai pay the price. The old man in embroidered robes attacked in an instant and punched the old man's wrist. Ah! The sharp pain from his wrist caused Zhao Hai to let out a blood-curdling scream. The scream was secondary. The most important thing was that Zhao Hai threw the white bead in his hand. Chapter 23-24. Damn it! Seeing the white bead flying towards Ningyu, Zhao Hai couldn't help but curse. Zhao Hai wasn't a fool. He knew what it meant to lose the white bead. Swish! This was impossible. The brocade-robed elder next to him immediately made a move. He punched towards Zhao Hai's head with a violent energy wave. This punch was powerful and heavy. Zhao Hai knew it very well. If he was unlucky enough to be hit by the fist, even if he didn't die, he would lose a layer of skin. Block it. It was a critical moment. Zhao Hai kept burning his essence blood, trying to block the brocade-robed elder's punch. Crack! However, even though Zhao Hai did his best to block it, the result wasn't satisfactory. The brocade-robed elder's fist quickly arrived in front of him. Under Zhao Hai's horrified gaze, it hit his chest. A crisp sound rang out. Several of Zhao Hai's ribs were broken on the spot. Die! The brocade-robed elder didn't stop after his attack. He punched again, compared to the previous punch. This time, the brocade-robed elder's target was Zhao Hai's head. Zhao Hai screamed when he saw the fist expanding in his eyes. Rumble! Before he could finish screaming, Zhao Hai's head exploded. At this moment, the Zhao family's ancestor, Zhao Hai, who was at the peak of the early stage Lord Heaven Realm, died on the spot. Crack! Zhao Hai's death didn't affect Ningyu at all. He grabbed the white bead and felt the terrifying energy contained in it. His eyes showed a bit of excitement. Facing two brocade-robed elders at the late-stage Lord Heaven Realm, Ningyu thought he could only escape. But now, He decided to change his mind and use the white bead to deal with them, because the energy contained in the white bead was too terrifying. Ningyu could tell that as long as he detonated the white bead, even if the two brocade-robed elders attacked together, they would definitely die. Come back. Ningyu took a deep breath and shouted at the two-horned demonic beast and Ning Lu. Swish! Whoosh! The double-horned demonic beast and Ning Lu did not hesitate. They immediately pushed back the heavenly demon in front of them and flew to Ningyu's side. Stop! Meanwhile, the two brocade-robed old men shouted at the sky demons who were about to rush towards Ningyu and the others. Without our permission, none of you are allowed to make a move. After berating the heavenly demons, the old men exchanged glances before slowly walking towards Ningyu. Sha. Not long after, the two brocade-robed old men stopped a few steps away from Ningyu. Hand over the white pearl, and I can leave your corpse intact. One of the old men in embroidered robes had a scar on his forehead. His expression was cold as he said to Ningyu, Otherwise, I will kill everyone in the Su clan. What does it have to do with me, whether you kill the Su clan's people or not? Ningyu rolled his eyes and said indifferently, If you want to kill the Su clan's people, you'd better do it quickly. If you are late, your Prince Ming Hao will be defeated by Heavenly Monarch Rome. Hearing Ningyu's words, the old man with the scar hurried to turn around. Swish! How could Ningyu let go of such a rare opportunity? His figure flashed. The moment the old man with the scar turned around, he suddenly dashed out. Almost in the blink of an eye, Ningyu arrived in front of the old man with the scar. He clenched his right fist and punched out. Damn it! The sudden change made the old man with the scar's face turn cold. He hurried to counter with his fist. Bang! A muffled sound rang out. Ningyu retreated immediately. He's so strong. Through this short exchange, Ningyu roughly estimated the gap between him and the old man with the scar. Unless he used the white pearl, he had no chance of winning. You're courting death. The old man with the scar glanced at the old man in brocade robes and said coldly, You go and destroy the Su clan. I'll deal with them. Be careful. The old man in brocade robes could not wait to leave. After all, Ningyu had the white pearl in his hand. What if Ningyu detonated the white pearl and he stayed? Wouldn't it be extremely dangerous? Leaving at this time was the wisest choice. If you dare take half a step, I'll detonate it. Seeing that the old man in brocade robes was about to leave, Ningyu raised the white pearl in his hand and quietly injected his immortal chi into it. Swish! Ningyu's action of cutting off all means of retreat caused the embroidered-clothed old man to retract his right leg. Let's each take a step back. The old man with the scar said coldly, Give me the white pearl, and I'll let you go. Do you think I'm an idiot? Ningyu shrugged and said, Unless you leave Kuin Su City with these heavenly demons, I'll detonate it immediately. While they were talking, Ningyu injected immortal chi into the white pearl again. Looking at Ningyu's posture, it was obvious that he wanted to fight to the death. I'm so angry. The old man with the scar was so angry that his nose was crooked. He hated that he did not snatch the white pearl and gave Ningyu a chance. Just think about it. If he had the white pearl, he would be able to do whatever he wanted now. But there was no medicine for regret in this world. In order to safely take back the white pearl, the old man with the scar could only choose to swallow his anger. The white pearl was too important to him. With the white pearl, his overall strength could even be increased to the point where he could fight against a peak stage Heaven Monarch realm martial artist. Among the heavenly demons, only those who reached the peak stage Heaven Monarch realm were the top of the top and entered the center of power. Late stage Heavenly Monarch realm heavenly demons like him and the old man in brocade robes were only peripheral members of the top and had no access to the core secrets. What do you want? The old man with the scar took a deep breath and said coldly, It's very simple. You take these heavenly demons and leave Kuin Su City. Ningyu said indifferently with the same expression. That's impossible. The old man with the scar refused flatly. No matter what, he could not leave with the heavenly demon army. Their purpose in going to Kuan-Su City this time was to refine the entire Kuan-Su City and make an immortal king-level Dharma treasure for Prince Ming-Hao. If they left like this, wouldn't they be laughed at by the other heavenly demons? Okay, I've decided to change the condition. Ningyu rolled his eyes and took out the heavenly demon pagoda. He sealed its aura and said, I'll give you two a chance. Let's fight inside this pagoda. As long as you two can defeat me, I'll naturally give you the white pearl. Is that true? The scar-faced old man raised his eyebrows and asked. We can sign a life and death contract. Ningyu said indifferently. Okay, I'll sign a life and death contract with you. The old man with the scar carefully stared at the heavenly demon tower, but did not find anything special. Gritting his teeth, the scarred elder took out a scroll from his bosom and threw it into the air. Ningyu forced a drop of blood essence into the scroll. In the blink of an eye, Ningyu signed a life and death contract with the old man with the scar. I'll do it too. The old man in brocade robes also forced a drop of blood essence and signed a life and death contract with Ningyu. All of you wait here. No one is allowed to make a move. The old man in brocade robes and the old man with the scar flashed and went straight into the heavenly demon tower. According to the agreement, before they entered the heavenly demon tower, they left an order to restrain the many heavenly demons. As expected. Chapter 23-25. Not good. As soon as they entered the heavenly demon tower, the expressions of the embroidered-robed elder and the knife-scarred elder became extremely ugly. They could feel it very clearly. There was a special restriction inside the pagoda. This kind of restriction posed a very great sense of oppression to them. Poochie, Poochie. Soon, both of them spat out a mouthful of blood at the same time. Their auras dropped from the late-stage Heaven Monarch realm to the mid-stage Heaven Monarch realm. This pagoda has a special suppressive effect on heavenly demons. The knife-scarred elder and the embroidered-robed elder were not stupid sky fiends. They quickly reacted. Coldly staring at Ningyu, the scarred old man said in a low voice, Could it be that you think you could defeat us like this? That's right, the brocade-robed old man said fiercely. Even if our cultivation is suppressed to the mid-stage of the heavenly monarch realm, killing you is as easy as killing a dog. Dog butcher? Oomph. You'll have to catch up to me first. Ningyu let out a cold snort and immediately flashed towards the deepest part of the heavenly demon tower. Recently, Ningyu had been studying the heavenly demon tower. After his research, he discovered that there was another world inside the heavenly devil tower. Previously, he thought that he had reached the deepest part of the heavenly demon tower, but that was not the case. As his strength increased, the internal structure of the heavenly demon tower also underwent some changes. In general, a second area had appeared in the heavenly demon tower. The first region could lower a heavenly demon's rank by 1. As for the second region, it could lower a sky fiend's rank by 2. The old man in embroidered robes and the scarred old man were both at the late Heaven Monarch realm. As long as he could lure them to the second region, their cultivation would drop to the early stage Heaven Monarch realm. Ningyu wasn't confident in dealing with late stage Heaven Monarch realm heavenly demons, but he could instantly kill early stage Heaven Monarch realm heavenly demons. Where are you going? The old man with a knife scar and the old man in embroidered clothes glanced at each other before flashing out in unison. Poochie, Poochie. However, blindly advancing had caused them to pay the price in blood. After entering the second area, they spat out another mouthful of blood. Buzz! A buzzing sound rang out. The auras of the old man in embroidered robes and the scarred old man dropped to the early stage heavenly monarch realm. Whoosh! Ningyu instantly stopped when he saw the auras of the old man in embroidered robes and the others drop. He played with the white bead in his hand and said, I'll give you a chance to live now. Submit to me, or else we've signed a life and death contract. If you don't want to go to the Avicii hell, you'd better not use the white pearl. Without waiting for Ningyu to finish his words, the scarred old man said coldly, I have observed this pagoda. It is very strange, but it can only lower our cultivation to the early stage Heaven Monarch realm. Even if our cultivation drops to the early stage heavenly monarch realm, it's enough to deal with you. Ningyu was not angered by the old man's interruption. He put away the white bead, and his figure immediately became illusory. Not long later, Ningyu appeared in front of the scarred old man. Before the scarred old man could even react, the punch landed squarely on his heart. Bang! Ningyu had used 100% of his strength in this punch. Even though the scarred old man's defense was very strong, he still could not withstand it. His heart was directly pierced. The scarred old man opened his mouth slightly and pointed at Ningyu, wanting to say something ruthless. However, before he could finish his words, his body fell backward. Thump! As the sound of his body hitting the ground was heard, the scarred old man, a peak powerhouse among the heavenly fiends, died on the spot. Devour! Ningyu did not waste such a good opportunity to devour. The devouring power in his body surged out, and in just a few seconds, it devoured the scarred old man completely. Bang! A dull sound was heard. Ningyu's cultivation soared from the late stage Saint Immortal to the peak of the Saint Immortal. Not bad. Ningyu nodded in satisfaction. No matter what, the scarred old man was a late stage heavenly monarch. Even if his cultivation was suppressed to the early stage heavenly monarch, the energy in his body was still very much. Under such circumstances, it was not surprising that Ningyu could advance to the peak of the Saint Immortal. Have you made up your mind? After advancing to the peak of the Saint Immortal, Ningyu turned to look at the embroidered old man and said, "Submit or die. Aren't you afraid of Prince Minghao?" The embroidered old man took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Even if you control me, Prince Minghao will definitely kill you when we leave this pagoda. This has nothing to do with you," Ningyu said indifferently. "I choose." The embroidered old man gritted his teeth. A moment ago, it seemed like he wanted to submit to Ningyu, but in the next moment, he suddenly charged at Ningyu with all his strength, wanting to kill Ningyu with a single punch. I knew he would do this. Ningyu had already guessed the embroidered old man's behavior. He did not use any fancy moves and directly punched at the embroidered old man. Crack! The two fists collided. Ningyu stood on the spot without moving. On the other hand, the embroidered old man retreated dozens of feet and only stopped when his body hit the ground. Swish! Naturally, Ningyu would not give the embroidered old man any chance to escape. He chased after him and punched again. Bang! Without a doubt. With the first punch, Ningyu severely injured the embroidered old man. With the second punch, he killed the embroidered old man. Chi! After killing the embroidered old man, the devouring power in Ningyu's body surged out again and began to devour the embroidered old man. Boom! After a while, a terrifying aura suddenly emanated from Ningyu's body. Devouring the scarred old man allowed Ningyu to advance from the late stage Saint Immortal to the peak of the Saint Immortal. Although devouring the embroidered old man did not allow Ningyu to advance to the half-step heavenly monarch realm, it greatly increased his strength. Before entering the heavenly demon tower, Ningyu might not even have a chance to win against a mid-stage heavenly monarch realm martial artist. But now, if he encountered a mid-stage heavenly monarch realm martial artist again, Ningyu was completely capable of resisting and even killing him. Even if he encountered a late-stage heavenly monarch realm martial artist, he still had the power to fight. Swish! Without staying in the heavenly demon tower for too long, Ningyu slightly dealt with the scarred old man and the others' corpses and flew out of the heavenly demon tower. Ningyu, seeing that only Ningyu came out, the twin-horned demonic beast, and Ning Lu hurriedly said, "It's done." Ningyu waved his hand, indicating that Ning Lu and the others could be at ease. "You killed him?" At the side, Emohi's pupil shrank as he said in horror. Both of them were late-stage heavenly monarchs. "How could you kill them?" Ningyu rolled his eyes and did not answer Emohi's doubt. Swish! Right at this moment, a shadow swept out from the void and dashed toward Ningyu. "Master!" Seeing the incoming person, the twin-horned demonic beast shouted and wanted to rush out. Ningyu grabbed the twin-horned demonic beast and leaped up to catch Rong Tianjun firmly. Oh no! Sensing the change in Rong Tianjun's aura, Ningyu's face instantly turned gloomy. Rong Tianjun's aura had already dropped from late-stage Heavenly Monarch realm to mid-stage Heavenly Monarch realm. Chapter 23-26. Swoosh! In the next moment, Ming Hao dashed out of the void and slowly landed in front of Ningyu. Go! Take the two-horned demon beast and leave first. Seeing Ming Hao, Rong Tianjun hurriedly said to Ningyu, I'll stop Ming Hao. You're going to stop me? Ming Hao curled his lips and said sinisterly, Without your immortal king-level Dharma treasure, how can you be a match for me? Swish! While they were talking, Ming Hao flipped his wrist and a round disc appeared in his hand. Damn it! Rong Tianjun stared at the round disc in Ming Hao's hand, his face extremely gloomy. The round disc was the most powerful Dharma treasure in his celestial kingdom. Without it, the consequences would be unimaginable. In the celestial court, every celestial kingdom had its own national treasure. Some national treasures belonged to immortal kings, while others belonged to immortal king-level Dharma treasures. In short, countries that could stand in the celestial court either had Dharma treasures or immortal kings. By the way, where are the Xianming elders? After playing with the round disc for a while, Ming Hao put it in his pocket. Looking around, Ming Hao asked in confusion, Why don't I see them? It was no wonder that Ming Hao was confused. In his opinion, the Xianming elders were both at the late stage of the Heavenly Lord realm. Heavenly demons at the late stage of the Heavenly Lord realm could easily rule Kuan Su City even without his help. But now, they were nowhere to be seen, which confused Ming Hao. Prince Ming Hao, before you came back, the Xianming elders followed Ningyu into a square pagoda. A half-step Heavenly Lord realm heavenly demon in the army of heavenly demons answered honestly. Square pagoda? Ming Hao was dazed at first. Then he turned to Ningyu and asked, Are the Xianming elders trapped in the square pagoda? Why don't you just sense it yourself? Why ask me? Ningyu shrugged, appearing indifferent. Rong Tianjun was injured, and his immortal king-level round disc was taken. Under such circumstances, Ningyu knew that he had to stand up. After all, his current strength was enough to compete with late-stage Heaven Monarch realm experts. Moreover, he had the white bead, the ultimate weapon. If he used it well, he could wound Ming Hao severely. Therefore, Ningyu knew that he had to appear calm. That was the only way to make him look profound and mysterious. Ming Hao wouldn't dare to attack him directly. That would give him more time to study the white bead. There was indeed a large amount of energy inside the white bead. However, Ningyu couldn't control it perfectly. Exploding the white bead at this moment meant that they had to die together with Ming Hao. It wasn't a wise move. Acting all mysterious, Ming Hao glared at Ningyu and then contacted the Xianming elders. Hiss! As soon as they communicated, Ming Hao took a deep breath. Ka ka ka. Right after that, Ming Hao's face darkened completely. The Xianming elders were his right-hand men. All the dirty and tiring work was done by them. Now that he was killed by Ningyu, how could he not be angry? The furious Ming Hao clenched his fists and made cracking sounds. Very well, you've completely infuriated me. Looking at Ningyu coldly, Ming Hao said in a deep voice, I wanted to leave your body intact, but now I've changed my mind. I'm going to cut you into pieces and grind your bones to ashes. As soon as the word ashes was said, Ming Ju's figure flashed and charged swiftly towards Ningyu. It was obvious. Ming Hao was so angry that he wanted to skin Ningyu alive. Swish! Seeing Ming Hao make a move, the heavenly demons behind him also joined the battle. Ming Hao was going to deal with Ningyu, while the heavenly demons chose the double-horned demonic beast. Do you really think I'm a pushover? Heavenly Lord Rong was furious. Although his aura had weakened a lot, he still had the cultivation of a middle-stage Heavenly Lord. Most of the heavenly demons that were charging at him were at the peak of the Saint Immortal realm. Only a few of them had reached the half-step Heavenly Lord realm. Heavenly Lord Rong could easily deal with the heavenly demons of this level. Swish! 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 He waved his hands. In an instant, several fist radiances flew out. Puff, puff, puff. The fist radiances were so powerful that almost every fist radiance would kill a heavenly demon. In less than a second, dozens of heavenly demons at the peak of the Saint Immortal Realm had died under the fist radiances. While Heavenly Lord Rong was fighting against the army of heavenly demons, Ningyu looked at Ming Hao, who was approaching him, and his expression became more and more serious. Heavenly Demon Tower. Seeing that Ming Hao was in front of him, Ningyu hurriedly threw out the Heavenly Demon Tower, try to suck Ming Hao into the tower. However, how could Ming Hao fall for it? His fist landed on the Heavenly Demon Tower, and the Heavenly Demon Tower was sent flying. This is bad. Ningyu's expression changed dramatically. He had no time to think. He immediately put the double-horned demonic beast and Ning Lu into the red demon's sword and flew away. Without the Heavenly Demon Tower, Ningyu could only choose to escape. As the saying went, where there is life, there is hope. If he did not leave now, staying would be no different from suicide. Humph! Where are you going? Seeing that Ningyu had left, Ming Hao snorted coldly and immediately chased after him. Although he could not fight Ningyu, Ming Hao discovered a secret on Ningyu. He sensed an extremely terrifying energy undulation from Ningyu's body. In his opinion, Ningyu might not be able to control that energy for the time being. And this was his chance. As long as he could snatch the energy, the death of the Xianming elders was completely worth it. Swoosh! In order to survive, Ningyu increased his speed to the extreme. Not long after, Ningyu left Kuan-Su City and fled west. How can he be so fast? Ming Hao secretly exclaimed as he chased after Ningyu. One should know that his speed could be ranked at the top even among the martial artists at the peak of the Heavenly Lord realm. Ningyu was just an ordinary human at the peak of the Saint Immortal stage, but his speed was comparable to his. This was indeed a little surprising. At this rate, he might not even be able to catch up with Ningyu in another 10 years. Sizzle. Ming Hao did not want to waste time. He immediately ignited his blood essence and doubled his speed. I have to think of a way. Ningyu could naturally feel that Ming Hao was getting closer and closer to him. Ningyu rolled his eyes, once again thinking about the Heavenly Demon Tower. Without the Heavenly Demon Tower, he could not fight against Ming Hao. Illusion. With a thought, Ningyu decided to use an illusion to trick Ming Hao into the Heavenly Demon Tower. Of course, in his current state, the success rate of using an illusion was very low. However, he had no other choice. While flying, Ningyu constructed an illusion. Rise! 3 hours later, while Ming Hao's eyes were burning with rage, Ningyu had used his illusion. Ming Hao felt the scene in front of him suddenly change. In front of him was not a flat road, but a cliff. Russell. Ming Hao instinctively chose to retreat, because if he took half a step forward, he would fall into a bottomless abyss. Chapter 23-27. Swish! As soon as Ming Hao took a few steps back, the scene in front of him changed. The precipitous cliff disappeared, and what replaced it was a sealed space. Inside, the Heavenly Demon Tower. Apparently, Ming Hao was inside the Heavenly Demon Tower. Illusion. Ming Hao wasn't a fool. It only took a moment for him to react. Taking a deep breath, Ming Hao looked at Ningyu, who had appeared out of nowhere, and said in a low voice, "Seems like I've underestimated you. But if you think you can defeat me like this, I can only say that you're too naive." Ignoring what Ming Hao was saying, Ningyu couldn't help but furrow his brows. Logically speaking, the Heavenly Demon Tower had a strong restraining effect on heavenly demons. Even if Ming Hao was strong, he should still be affected. But Ming Hao's reaction didn't seem to be affected. Die! While Ningyu was thinking, Ming Hao suddenly dashed toward him. Swish! Of course, Ningyu wouldn't choose to fight Ming Hao head-on. He hurried to dash deep into the Heavenly Demon Tower. The first area couldn't restrain Ming Hao's cultivation, but it didn't mean that the second area couldn't do the same. Where do you think you're going? Ming Hao didn't choose to stay, but followed closely. Moreover, he launched attacks while chasing after Ningyu. Swish! The overwhelming fist light swarmed toward Ningyu from all directions. Ningyu could feel the fist light coming from behind him. He wouldn't be stupid enough to stop and suffer. With his current power, he could only open the second area of the Heavenly Demon Tower. If he couldn't restrain Ming Hao's cultivation in the second area, he would fail today. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. In a few seconds, Ningyu arrived at the second area. The result made Ningyu excited. As soon as Ming Hao's fist light entered the second area, it vanished. Buzz. Ming Hao's cultivation dropped from the peak of the Heavenly Monarch realm to the late stage. What's going on? Ming Hao's pupils shrank, his face cold and gloomy. Ever since he reached the peak of the Heavenly Monarch realm, he had never encountered such a strange situation. It's suppressed by one level. Ningyu was very satisfied that the Heavenly Devil Tower had suppressed Ming Hao's cultivation to the late-stage Heavenly Monarch realm. With his strength, he had no chance of winning against Ming Hao, who was at the peak of the Heavenly Monarch realm. However, he had a higher chance of winning against Ming Hao, who was at the late stage of the Heavenly Monarch realm. Even if he couldn't kill Ming Hao couldn't kill him either. Answer me. Ming Hao took one step forward. His aura surged and crazily pressed on Ningyu. Chi-chi. The result was hard for Ming Hao to accept. Before the aura he released could reach Ningyu, it turned into nothingness and vanished. If I answer just because you ask me to, wouldn't I lose face? Ningyu pursed his lips and said indifferently, "This is the Heavenly Demon Tower, not the outside world. You'd better behave yourself." Damn it. This change enraged Ming Hao even more. He could have easily killed Ningyu. However, because he wanted the energy in Ningyu's body, he did not use his trump card. Who would have thought this action made him pay the price? Now he was trapped in this tower, and his cultivation was suppressed to the late-stage Heavenly Monarch realm. If he was not careful, he might die of regret. Taking a deep breath, Ming Hao tried to calm himself down. So what if it's the Heavenly Demon Tower? Even if my cultivation is suppressed to the late-stage Heavenly Monarch realm, you will still, Ming Hao said coldly. Swish. However, before Ming Hao could finish his words, Ningyu took out the white bead. Shaking the white bead, Ningyu said indifferently, "You have two choices. First, be trapped in the Heavenly Demon Tower for the rest of your life. Second, submit to me." Ha ha ha. Hearing Ningyu's words, Ming Hao laughed arrogantly. Submit to Ningyu? What a joke. He was a Heavenly Demon Prince. How could he submit to a human who was not even a Heavenly Monarch? How could he survive if word got out? I'll give you two choices too. Ming Hao held up two fingers and said, "First, kneel down and kowtow to me. Second, submit to me." So there's nothing to talk about? Ningyu shrugged. Then his figure flashed, and he chose to leave the Heavenly Demon Tower. Although Ningyu could fight against a late-stage Heavenly Monarch realm martial artist, Ming Hao was different. As a prince of the Heavenly Demons, who knew if Ming Hao had any trump cards? Wouldn't it be embarrassing if Ming Hao showed his power? He could leave the Heavenly Demon Tower first and fight Ming Hao after he reached the Heavenly Monarch realm. Swish. However, the ideal was perfect, but the reality was harsh. Just as Ningyu left the Heavenly Demon Tower, an afterimage darted out from the Heavenly Demon Tower. Ming Hao. That's right. The martial artist who dashed out of the Heavenly Demon Tower was Ming Hao. Puff, 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 puff. In order to leave the Heavenly Demon Tower, Ming Hao chose to go berserk. Berserk had side effects, so even though Ming Hao had left the Heavenly Demon Tower, his cultivation had not recovered to the peak of the Heavenly Monarch realm. Furthermore, not only did Ming Hao's cultivation not recover to the peak of the Heavenly Monarch realm, it had also dropped significantly. Early stage Heavenly Monarch realm. At this moment, Ming Hao's aura was only that of an early stage Heavenly Monarch realm. The mountains will not change, and the rivers will continue to flow. We will meet again. Ming Hao shouted at Ningyu and immediately tore the void to leave. Whoosh! However, before Ming Hao could enter the void, he saw 5 figures dashing toward him from afar. The 5 figures were very fast. In the blink of an eye, they landed. Heavenly Demon, A heavenly demon at the peak of the heavenly monarch realm. No, his cultivation has dropped to the early stage heavenly monarch realm. Then what are you waiting for? Hurry up and take him down. Ha ha, even the heavens are helping me. A heavenly demon at the peak of the heavenly monarch realm should be able to get a few immortal court tokens from you. The five martial artists did not look at Ningyu. Instead, they focused on Ming Hao. They did not look at Ningyu, but Ningyu was sizing them up. Early stage, heavenly monarch realm. According to Ningyu's observation, the five martial artists were all at the early stage, heavenly monarch realm. After thinking for a while, Ningyu said, "Be careful. Ming Hao is a prince among the heavenly demons. At his peak, he was at the peak of the heavenly monarch realm. Don't be careless. A hero does not boast about his past achievements. What prince? Peak of the heavenly monarch realm? He is just a piece of trash now. Go, go, go. Get lost, or we will kill you too." That's right. We found this heavenly demon. If you don't want to die, you'd better get lost as soon as possible. Don't talk nonsense with him. I will kill him. The four of you go and deal with that heavenly demon. A martial artist in blue waved his hand and rushed toward Ningyu. The martial artist in blue was not weak. He was at the peak of the early stage heavenly monarch realm. Among the five martial artists, the martial artist in blue should be in the top 3. Kid, you can only blame yourself for being too weak to meet the 5 tigers of the Xylan Weave. Chapter 23-28. You'd better look back at your 4 companions. Looking at the blue-clothed martial artist who was rushing over, Ningyu's expression was calm and emotionless. He reminded, Ming Hao is very powerful. Even if his cultivation has dropped to the early stage heavenly monarch realm, he can still kill him easily. Noisy. Obviously, the martial artist in blue did not want to listen to Ningyu's nonsense. He bellowed and gathered the immortal chi in his body on his fist. Then, he punched at Ningyu's head. Although the martial artist in blue was only at the early stage of the Heavenly Lord realm, the strength of his punch had reached the terrifying middle stage of the Heavenly Lord realm. In other words, even a middle stage Heavenly Lord realm martial artist might not be able to withstand this punch. Heaven's wrongs can be forgiven, but one's own wrongs cannot be avoided. Ningyu shook his head gently. Then, he clenched his right fist and punched. Crack! The 2 fists collided. Ningyu stood where he was without moving. On the other hand, the blue-clothed cultivator had to take several steps back before he could stabilize himself. The crisp sound of the fist indicated that the martial artist in blue's fist had broken on the spot. Ah! A hysterical scream came from the blue-clothed cultivator's mouth. Bang! Bang! At this moment, for muffled sounds resounded in the area. How is this possible? The martial artist in blue turned his head and saw a horrifying scene on the spot. His 4 companions had fallen to the ground. Their clothes were ragged and tattered, and even their auras had dropped from the early stage of the Heavenly Lord realm to the freezing point. At this moment, even a martial artist in the early stage of the Saint Immortal realm could easily kill his 4 companions. Nothing is impossible. Ningyu kicked the martial artist in blue away and slowly walked toward Ming Hao. Not long after, Ningyu stopped in front of Ming Hao and said indifferently, "You should know that you can't escape with your current mental state." Ha ha ha. Ming Hao smiled. His smile was so arrogant. After laughing crazily, Ming Hao coldly looked at Ningyu and said sinisterly, "Do you know what you're talking about? This place is very close to the Xylan Weave, and Prince Shui Ba, who is attacking the Xylan Weave, is on very good terms with me. I've already contacted him. It won't be long before he comes here." Pucci. During the conversation, Ming Hao rose his right foot and stomped on the head of one of the 5 violet tigers. Immediately, the heads of the violet tigers exploded, flesh and blood splattering everywhere. "Looks like I'll have to deal with you in advance." Ningyu's face was expressionless. With a flick of his wrist, he summoned the Heavenly Demon Tower. Ningyu is not a hothead. Although Ming Hao was only at the early stage of the Heavenly Monarch realm, it wasn't easy to defeat him. Hit the snake where it hurts, don't hold back. Ningyu didn't want Ming Hao to escape. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. However, Ningyu had just taken out the heavenly demon tower. Before he could use it against Ming Hao, he saw the void in the distance suddenly split open, and 3 figures appeared. Sect Leader Qian, save me. Seeing the 3 figures suddenly appear, the blue-clothed martial artist of the 5 Violet Tigers was startled at first. Then he shouted with all his strength, "Save me, quick!" Among the 3 figures, an old man in brown robes shifted his gaze to the cultivator in blue. Frowning, the old man in brown clothes said to his left and right, "Go save him." Yes. The old man in brown clothes, who was also the 2 young martial artists behind Sect Leader Qian, nodded and flew to the blue-clothed martial artist, bringing him to the other side. It seems that the godly mathematician was right. We can meet the prince of the heavenly demons here. Sect Leader Qian turned to look at Ming Hao and said, "Relax your mind and let me control it. Otherwise, you'll end up like Xue Ba." Whoosh! Hearing Master Qian, Ming Hao's pupils shrank. Prince Xue Ba was the key to his survival. But from what Sect Leader Qian said, it seemed that Prince Xue Ba had already been captured. Don't think about it. Xue Ba led many heavenly demons to attack the Violet Orchid Weave. Unfortunately, godly mathematician, Thunder Elixir King, and Heavenly Lord Du of the Immortal Court were all there. Sect Leader Qian said calmly, "If I'm not wrong, Xue Ba has already been refined by Thunder Elixir King. He has become an elixir." Hiss! Hearing so many familiar names in his ears, Ming Hao's heart sank to the bottom of the valley. Be it the godly mathematician, Thunder Elixir King, or Heavenly Lord Du, they were all famous among the heavenly demons. All 3 of them were at the peak of the heavenly monarch realm. Although Xue Ba was strong, facing 3 peak heavenly monarchs at the same time, he was destined to lose. No. Ming Hao stared at Sect Leader Qian, his mouth slightly open as if he thought of something. He said in fear, "Could you be Qian Linkong? At least you're not too stupid." Qian Linkong smiled and said, "I don't want to say anything unnecessary. You have 2 choices. First, open your mind and let me control you. Second, be refined into an elixir like Xue Ba." Ming Hao's eyes turned as he thought of a countermeasure. Among the heavenly demons, Qian Linkong was famous for his ruthlessness. Even if he opened his mind and surrendered, he might be refined into an elixir. Instead of submitting to Qian Linkong, he might as well submit to Ningyu. At this thought, Ming Hao's figure flashed, and he flew to Ningyu's side. He said in a low voice, "Qian Linkong, you're too late. I'm Ningyu's slave." What? Qian Linkong was furious. Godly mathematician had spent a lot of effort to calculate Ming Hao's whereabouts. He thought that he could control Ming Hao easily. Who could have thought that a warrior who didn't know what was good for him would be 1 step faster? Peak of the Saint Immortal stage? Qian Linkong was a little dumbfounded when he scanned Ningyu with his perception. If Ningyu's cultivation was at the peak of the Lord of Heaven, he would feel more balanced. However, Ningyu's cultivation was only at the peak of the Saint Immortal stage. There was a big gap between him and the peak of the Lord of Heaven. This made him very angry. Release the control over Ming Hao. Qian Linkong took a step forward and looked at Ningyu coldly. He said coldly, "People like you don't deserve to have slaves at the peak of the Lord of Heaven. Sect Leader Qian, it's him who ruined our plan. If it weren't for him, we, the 5 Tigers of Violet Orchid, would have controlled Ming Hao." The martial artist in blue's voice came at the right time. Obviously, the martial artist in blue was complaining and adding fuel to the fire. His clumsy goading method was obviously very effective. Qian Linkong took out a silver-white flying sword and said in a low voice, "I'll give you 1 last chance. Hand over the control of Ming Hao or die." Boom! As soon as the word die was said, a terrifying aura surged out of Qian Linkong's body and crazily pressed down on Ningyu. Qian Linkong's cultivation was at the peak of the Lord of Heaven. The silver-white flying sword was also a false immortal king level Dharma treasure. Coupled with the aura that kept surging out of his body, Qian Linkong thought that he had already controlled Ningyu. Chapter 23-29. Open your mind and hand over the disc. Ningyu did not listen to Qian Lingkong's order. He transferred his immortal qi to his wrist and sent a voice transmission to Ming Hao. He was prepared for both. Since Ming Hao had submitted to him, Ningyu might as well beat him at his own game and control him. Moreover, Ming Hao still had Rong Tianjuan's disc. The disc was an immortal king-level Dharma treasure. With the disc and Ming Hao as his slave, Ningyu was confident that he could fight Qian Lingkong. All right. Ming Hao looked at Ningyu, gritted his teeth, and completely opened his mind. Swoosh! As he opened his mind, he flicked his wrist and threw the disc out. Pa! Ningyu reacted quickly and caught the disc. There was no time to think. Ningyu quickly sent a wisp of his soul power into the disc, trying to take control of it. At the same time, in an area not far away from Ningyu, Rong Tianjun spurted out a mouthful of blood, and his speed gradually slowed down. Ming Hao, Rong Tianjuan's face turned pale. He clenched his fists, and his veins popped out. The disc was the national treasure of his celestial kingdom. It did not matter if he lost it, as he could find its aura. However, if someone else took control of it, he would not be able to find it no matter how powerful he was. Rong Tianjun was angry because he felt that Ming Hao was trying to take control of the disc. Full speed ahead. He gritted his teeth. Rong Tianjun did not hesitate to burn his blood essence to increase his speed so that he could reach the disc as soon as possible. Ever since Ningyu and Ming Hao left, Rong Tianjun had killed hundreds of heavenly demons at the peak of the Saint Immortal level. After giving some instructions, Heavenly Lord Rong quickly followed the aura of the disc. However, something like this happened when he was about to catch up with Ming Hao. Faster, faster. Rong Tianjun kept increasing his speed. He did not even care about his pale face and weak aura. However, Rong Tianjun paid a heavy price for consuming his essence blood to increase his speed. After running at full speed for a while, Rong Tianjun suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. It's over. Lord Rong was in a daze. He knew that the disc had completely changed owners. At this moment, even if he found Ming Hao, it was useless. After all, the disc was a celestial king rank magic treasure, and it was practically impossible for it to change owners in a short period of time. I won't let you have it easy either. Lord Rong had a determined look on his face. He immediately sat down cross-legged and took out a scroll from his pocket. Drip! He forced out a few drops of blood and dripped them onto the scroll. Voila! As soon as the essence blood came into contact with the scroll shone with a golden light. Rise! Heavenly Lord Rong slammed his hands on the ground and leaped into the air. He grabbed the two sides of the scroll with both hands and pulled hard. Whoosh! The scroll broke into two halves on the spot. Rumble! As soon as the scroll broke into two halves, the disc on Ning Yu's side grew several times bigger. What's going on? The sudden change was obviously out of Ning Yu's expectation. He hadn't expected this to happen. He had just taken control of the disc, and before he could use it to deal with Qian Lingkong, this happened. Ming Hao, Ning Yu's first thought was that Ming Hao had done something to the disc. So he looked at Ming Hao coldly and sent him a voice transmission. Tell me the truth. Are you hiding something from me? You've already controlled me. What else can I hide from you? Ming Hao was very calm. He spread his hands and said calmly. Hearing that, Ning Yu was bewildered. Ming Hao was right. As he had controlled Ming Hao, even if Ming Hao had any thoughts, he could hear them. Under such circumstances, Ming Hao had no reason to lie to him. Ning Lu, give me some juice from the Tree of World. Since he didn't know, Ning Yu didn't want to think about it. He kept using secret techniques and chose to forcibly control the disc. When the disc expanded several times, it didn't mean that it was out of his control. It just meant that the hidden energy in the disc was triggered. If it were someone else, even an expert at the peak of Heavenly Monarch realm, he couldn't do anything. But Ning Yu was different. The red demon sword hid Ning Lu. Ning Lu's real body was the Tree of World, and the juice of the Tree of World could subdue many things. For example, it could subdue the disc and stop the energy from exploding. Swish! Since Ning Yu had asked for it, how could Ning Lu neglect it? He hurried to force out several drops of blood essence from his body, throwing them to Ningyu. Sizzle, sizzle. Ningyu's mind flickered, refining Ning Lu's blood essence and pouring it into the disc. As expected, sure enough, this move worked. Under Ning Lu's blood essence, the energy in the disc gradually calmed down. Time's up. However, right at this moment, 3 words came out of Qian Linkong's mouth. After that, he quickly moved and rushed towards Ningyu. Qian Linkong used a killing move right from the start, not holding anything back. Kill Ningyu, control the nether skull, and take the disc. These were the 3 things in Qian Linkong's mind. Through observation, Qian Linkong already knew that the disc wasn't normal. Although he wasn't sure why the disc became bigger, an Immortal King-level treasure was definitely not normal. He raised the silver-white flying sword in his hand and slashed at Ningyu's head. Ding! At the critical moment, Ningyu raised the disc and blocked in front of him. The disc and the silver-white flying sword made contact, giving off a crisp sound. The numbing feeling from his thumb and forefinger caused Qian Linkong to take a few steps back. Are you from the Celestial Court? Qian Linkong's expression became extremely ugly. He originally thought that he could easily defeat Ningyu. Unexpectedly, he was evenly matched with Ningyu in the first exchange. He had roamed the pugilistic world for so many years, but he had never seen a peak saint immortal martial artist as strong as Ningyu. There was only one possibility for such a situation to occur. Ningyu came from the Celestial Court. Qian Linkong wouldn't even frown when he killed ordinary people, even if they were from super territory. However, he had to think twice before killing a martial artist from the Celestial Court. You dare to be distracted while fighting me? That's not good. Ningyu held the disc and smashed it towards Qian Linkong. Qian Linkong had concerns, but he didn't. Even if Qian Linkong came from the Celestial Court and offended him, he would kill him without hesitation. Damn it! Qian Linkong couldn't help but curse when he saw that Ningyu didn't reply to him and instead attacked to kill him. Since you are seeking death, I can only fulfill your wish. Qian Linkong injected all the immortal energy in his body into the silver-white flying sword and slashed at Ningyu. Chi-Chi, the sword that Qian Linkong slashed out, was extremely powerful. Even the void let out a sizzling sound. Almost in an instant, Qian Linkong and the silver-white flying sword arrived in front of Ningyu. Remember in your next life, there are some people that you can't afford to offend. As the cold words came out of his mouth, Qian Linkong's aura started to increase rapidly. In a short period of time, his aura rose from the peak of Heaven Monarch to the extreme. Chapter 23:30. After his aura soared to the extreme, Qian Linkong suddenly slashed with the silver-white flying sword. Ding! In the next moment, the silver-white flying sword collided with the round disc in Ningyu's hand. Followed by a crisp sound, Qian Linkong and Ningyu retreated a few feet at the same time. This is impossible. Qian Linkong's expression changed. His face was filled with disbelief. He could not imagine it no matter what. After he used a secret technique and raised his strength to the extreme, he still could not defeat Ningyu. Could it be? Was Ningyu really pretending to be weak to eat a tiger? The more he thought about it, the more he felt it was possible. Taking a deep breath, Qian Linkong looked at Ningyu coldly and said in a deep voice, "Actually, there's no need for us to fight to the death." "Oh, what do you mean?" Ningyu raised his eyebrows and asked doubtfully. "Hand over the nether puppet to me, and I will let you go." Qian Linkong said directly, "You should be very clear that I did not use my full strength in that move just now. If I use my full strength, you will definitely die. I am afraid you have lost your mind." Ningyu shrugged his shoulders and immediately rose from the ground. Holding the round disc, he rushed out again. This time, Ningyu completely activated the terrifying energy in the round disc and decided to give Qian Linkong a fatal blow. Damn it! Seeing that Ningyu did not listen to him, Qian Linkong's expression became extremely ugly. "You forced me to do this." Taking a deep breath, Qian Linkong took out a white elixir. Crack! The elixir entered his mouth, and went down his throat into his stomach. Boom! In an instant, an extremely terrifying aura exuded from Qian Linkong's body. Half-step Immortal King. In order to defeat Ningyu in one move, Qian Linkong did not hesitate to use an Immortal King level elixir to forcefully raise his strength to half-step Immortal King level. Next year today will be the anniversary of your death. Qian Linkong looked at Ningyu coldly and slashed with his sword. Crack! However, just as Qian Linkong waved the silver-white flying sword, Ningyu appeared in front of him with the disc in his hand. Without any hesitation, Ningyu used all of his strength to throw the disc towards Qian Linkong. The disc first collided with the silver flying sword. Without a doubt, the silvery white flying sword was only a half-step Immortal King grade magic treasure, so how could it withstand the impact of the disc? A clear and melodious voice could be heard. Then, the silver-white flying sword broke into two halves on the spot. Whoosh! After breaking the silver-white flying sword, the round disc did not stop at all and directly attacked Qian Linkong. Ha! Qian Linkong had indeed used an Immortal King grade pill. He stretched out his right hand and firmly blocked the disc's attack. Insignificant skill. The corners of Qian Linkong's mouth rose into an arc as he said with an evil smile, Ningyu, the people I, Qian Linkong, want to kill have never lived past a day. Then I'm honored, Ningyu said lightly. Qian Linkong was puzzled. Logically speaking, he blocked the disc. This was Ningyu's absolute trump card, so Ningyu should be a little angry. But now Ningyu's reaction made him more puzzled. Not good. Suddenly, Qian Linkong seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly looked at the disc in his hand. Hiss! What he saw made him suck in a breath of cold air, because he found that the disc was tightly attached to his hand. No matter how hard he tried, he could not get rid of it. Moreover, the disc was getting bigger and bigger. Based on this trend, it would not be long before the disc swallowed his hand. I've been tricked, Qian Linkong instantly reacted. The reason why Ningyu was so confident was that he had predicted that he would use his hand to catch the disc. However, Qian Linkong was not an indecisive person. He exerted force with his left hand and directly chopped the wrist of his right hand. Crack! Along with a clear and melodious sound rang out. Qian Linkong's right hand was directly chopped off. Run! The moment his right hand was chopped off, Qian Linkong turned around and rushed towards the Xylem Weave. As the saying went, where there is life, there is hope. Qian Linkong did not want to stay and die. Boom! However, it was obviously too late for Qian Linkong to think of retreating at this moment. The disc exploded with a loud bang. The huge shockwave directly sent Qian Linkong flying, and he fell heavily at the feet of Ningyu. How could Ningyu let go of such a good opportunity? He took out the red demon sword and stabbed it into Qian Linkong's heart. Qian Linkong looked down at the red flying sword at his heart and forcefully raised his right hand to point at Ningyu. He wanted to say something ruthless. However, before he finished his words, his body fell straight to the back. At this moment, Qian Linkong, who had reached the peak of the Heaven Monarch realm, was forcibly killed. As soon as he killed Qian Linkong, Ningyu spat out a mouthful of dark red blood, and his face became somewhat pale. Ningyu secretly rejoiced. Fortunately, Ming Hao had Rong Tianjuan's disc with him. Otherwise, even if he used all his trump cards, he would definitely not be a match for Qian Linkong. After all, Qian Linkong's cultivation was at the peak of the Heaven Monarch realm. After swallowing a white elixir, his cultivation soared to the half-step Celestial King realm. The overall strength of a martial artist at this level was abnormally terrifying. What a pity. Ningyu looked at the fragments of the disc that were scattered in the air and felt a little regretful. After all, the disc was a Celestial King-level Dharma treasure. If he lost it, he would definitely feel indignant. Now, the only Celestial King-level Dharma treasure that Ningyu had with him was the Heavenly Demon Tower. Even the red demon sword had not reached the Celestial King level. Whoosh! At this moment, the fragments of the disc in midair slowly moved towards the center. Ningyu's mouth was slightly open. This was the first time he had encountered such a situation. Could celestial king-level Dharma treasures be reassembled? No matter what, Ningyu was very happy to see the disc reassemble. Bang! As Ningyu was looking at the reassembled disc, he suddenly felt a figure attacking him. There was no time to think. Ningyu held the red demon sword in his hand and turned around to slash. At the moment when he turned around, Ningyu saw the person attacking him. It was the martial artist in blue of the 5 tigers of the Violet Orchid sect. Seeing the martial artist in blue, Ningyu waved the red demon sword mercilessly and slashed down. In an instant, the martial artist in blue was cut into 2 at the waist. He still has such powerful combat strength. The 2 young martial artists who came with Qian Linkong were very shocked when they saw Ningyu's reaction was so fast, and he killed the martial artist in blue with 1 slash. They thought that they could take advantage of the fact that Ningyu had just fought a great battle to launch a sneak attack. Unexpectedly, the strength that Ningyu displayed was still extremely terrifying. Retreat. A wise man did not fight when the odds were against him. The 2 young martial artists immediately retreated and wanted to escape from this area. However, how could they escape from Ningyu? With the red demon sword in his hand, Ningyu attacked again. Puffed, puffed. 2 sounds were heard consecutively. The 2 young martial artists were killed on the spot. Crack, crack, crack. As soon as Ningyu killed the 2 young martial artists, the disc in midair had finished reassembling. Chapter 23:31. Swish. Ningyu reacted quickly. The moment the disc was reassembled, he dashed out and grabbed it firmly in his hand. Using his perception, he entered the disc and probed it a little. Hiss! Ningyu couldn't help but gasp. Compared to the previous one, the reassembled disc's power had increased by at least several times. If the previous disc was an early-stage Immortal King artifact, the current disc was at least equivalent to a middle-stage Immortal King artifact. A blessing in disguise. After playing with the disc for a while, Ningyu put it into the Red Devil Sword and walked towards Qian Linkong's body. Qian Linkong was a peak-stage Heavenly Monarch realm martial artist when he was alive. There must be a lot of energy in his body. Ningyu was going to devour him. Chi! Chi! Ningyu put his right hand on Qian Linkong's head. The devouring power in his body surged out, and he started devouring crazily. As he devoured Qian Linkong, the energy in Ningyu's body increased. Bang! A few minutes later, a muffled sound came from Ningyu's body. Along with this muffled sound, Yi Zichen's eyes lit up. Ningyu's cultivation had advanced from the peak stage, Saint Immortal, to the half-step Heavenly Monarch realm. Phew! After feeling the changes in his sea of consciousness, Ningyu let out a long breath and showed a satisfied look. Qian Linkong was a peak stage Heavenly Monarch realm martial artist. The energy in his body was really terrifying. Even though he had advanced to the half-step Heavenly Monarch realm, there was still a huge amount of energy left in Ningyu's sea of consciousness. However, Ningyu didn't continue to break through to the Heavenly Monarch realm. Instead, he chose to seal the energy in his sea of consciousness. About 10 minutes later, Ningyu kicked Qian Linkong, who had only a piece of skin left. He turned around and walked to Minghao. After devouring Qian Linkong, Ningyu's cultivation had advanced to the half-step Heavenly Monarch realm. He had also stored a huge amount of energy. Now, without the help of the energy in his sea of consciousness, Ningyu would be able to put up a fight even if he encountered a peak stage Heaven Monarch martial artist. Once he borrowed the energy in his sea of consciousness, Ningyu was confident that he could instantly kill a peak stage Heaven Monarch realm expert. Moreover, there was also a white pearl within the red demon sword. The energy contained in the white bead was even more terrifying than the energy in Ningyu's body. The white bead and the energy in his body erupted together. Ningyu even felt that he could fight head-on with a half-step Immortal King expert. What do you want? Seeing Ningyu walking toward him, Minghao looked frightened. To be honest, actually, when Ningyu and Qian Linkong were fighting, Minghao really wanted to help Qian Linkong, because in his opinion, as long as Qian Linkong could kill Ningyu, he would be able to escape. After all, he was controlled by Ningyu. If Ningyu won, he would lose the chance to escape. I don't want to do anything. Ningyu shrugged and said, I heard that there are marvelous mathematician, Thunder Elixir King, and Heavenly Monarch Du in the Xylan Weave. Who are they? Explain them to me. Phew. Ming Hao heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Ningyu's question. After organizing his thoughts, Ming Hao explained, Marvelous mathematician is known for his flawless calculations. He is a peak stage Heaven Monarch realm expert. There are at least 80,000 sky fiends that have died in his hands. He's that powerful? Ningyu frowned. Of course. Ming Hao continued. Decades ago, marvelous mathematician single-handedly set up a heaven-reaching array on the path that our army of sky fiends had to pass through. He killed 50,000 half-step, saint, immortal heavenly demons. Mentioning this incident, Ming Hao was still a little scared. He heard that was the third most tragic battle in the history of sky fiends. Other than the half-step saint immortal heavenly demons, there were many early stage, mid-stage, late-stage saint immortal heavenly demons, and even heavenly monarch realm heavenly demons. Even 4 peak stage heavenly monarch princes died in the heaven-reaching array. Thunder Elixir King is even more terrifying. Ming Hao took a deep breath and said solemnly, If marvelous mathematician is flawless, then Thunder Elixir King is unfathomable. His alchemy skills are said to be the best outside of the immortal court. He can even refine immortal king-level pills. Ningyu didn't say anything. Ming Hao continued to explain, Heavenly Monarch Du is a heavenly monarch of the immortal court. He is a peak stage heavenly monarch realm expert. He is ruthless and merciless. Anyone who offends him, be it sky fiends or humans, will not have a good ending. I know a secret, but I don't know if I should tell you. Ming Hao hesitated and didn't continue. Speak, Ningyu said solemnly. I heard that Thunder Elixir King, marvelous mathematician, heavenly monarch Du, and Qian Linkong were all from the immortal court. Ming Hao said carefully, Heavenly Monarch Du stayed in the immortal court as a spy, while marvelous mathematician and the others gathered resources outside the immortal court. They seemed to be waiting for the right time to enter the immortal court and do something big. I didn't expect you to know so much, Ningyu said seriously. What Ming Hao said was all very important. He had already killed Qian Linkong. Even if he didn't go to the Violet Orchid Weave, marvelous mathematician would still find him. Instead of waiting for death, he might as well take the initiative. He wasn't weak now anyway. Plus, he had a mid-stage Immortal King level disc. He was confident he could fight marvelous mathematician and the others. Whoosh! Suddenly, the void shook. A martial artist appeared out of thin air. Ningyu held the Red Devil sword in his hand. Just as he was about to slash out, he realized that he knew the martial artist who came out of the void. Rong Tianjun. That's right, this martial artist was Rong Tianjun. Watch out! Rong Tianjun's pupil shrank as soon as he appeared. He said to Ningyu, Leave now. I'll deal with Ming Hao. Ningyu was touched. Rong Tianjun's first thought was to ask him to leave instead of leaving himself. Don't worry, Ming Hao is under my control. Ningyu waved his hand, took out the disc, and said, This disc belongs to you. I'm returning it to its rightful owner now. Whoosh! As he spoke, Ningyu threw the disc to Rong Tianjun. Pa! Rong Tianjun caught the disc steadily. Looking at the disc in his hand, Rong Tianjun's jaw dropped. He was in disbelief. Rong Tianjun was no fool. Naturally, he could see that the disc was no longer the same disc from before. It seemed the grade of the disc had doubled. You activated it? Rong Tianjun's pupil shrank as he looked at Ningyu in surprise. No wonder Rong Tianjun had such a reaction. There was a legend about the disc. Whoever could activate it and upgrade its grade would be its rightful owner. I didn't activate it. I reorganized it. Ningyu told Rong Tianjun everything that had happened. Gasp! After listening to Ningyu's recount, Rong Tianjun gasped. He didn't even need to look to know how intense the battle was. This disc is for you. It has recognized you as its owner. From now on, you're its owner. Chapter 2332. Taking the disc, Ningyu asked hesitantly, "Are you sure you want to give it to me?" It was no wonder that Ningyu found it hard to believe. After all, the disc was a mid-stage, celestial king-level Dharma treasure. After all, even a half-step celestial king-level warrior might not have a Dharma treasure of this level. Ningyu was shocked that Lord of Heaven Rong gave it to him. "If it weren't for you, I would have been killed by Ming Hao." Lord of Heaven Rong waved his hand and said, "Plus, the disc has recognized its owner. Even if I hold it, I won't be able to use its power." All right. After hearing Lord of Heaven Rong's explanation, Ningyu had to keep the disc. Whoosh, whoosh. In the next moment, Ningyu willed in his mind and released the double-horned demon beast and Ning Lu. "I'm going to take it." As soon as he left the red demon's sword, Ning Lu couldn't help but swear. "Ningyu, how lucky are you?" Ning Lu stared at the disc in Ningyu's hand and said in surprise, "You can even get a mid-stage Celestial King-level Dharma treasure." Ningyu rolled his eyes at Ning Lu and said, "Go somewhere cool." "Hee, can you give it to me?" Ning Lu chuckled and jogged to Ningyu's side. "Give it to me. I promise I can break through to the Lord of Heaven realm." "Get lost." Ningyu kicked Ning Lu's butt and said, "You don't even frown when you lie. If Hongamo told me that, I might believe him, but I don't believe you at all." The red demon's sword could devour Dharma treasures to level up. And Red Demon was the sword spirit of the Red Demon sword. Therefore, if the Red Demon sword's level increased, Red Demon's cultivation would also increase. "Fine, I won't give it to you." Stingy. Ning Lu patted his butt and then said seriously, "Where are we going next?" "You killed Qian Linkong and those Violet 5 tigers. I'm sure they won't let you off. In my opinion, we should hurry. I think we should leave as soon as possible." "It's useless." Rong Tianjun shook his head and said, "Marvelous mathematician." Puff. Before he could finish his words, Rong Tianjun felt something sweet in his throat, and he immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. His face became extremely pale. "What happened?" Ningyu asked hurriedly. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Heavenly Monarch Rong said in a deep voice, "Heavenly Monarch Du contacted me through a secret technique of the Immortal Court. He asked me to meet up with him in the Xylan Weave. Otherwise, Rong Tianjun did not finish his sentence. However, Ningyu knew it very well. Obviously, Du Tianjun had sensed something. "It seems I have to go to the Violet Orchid Weave." Ningyu took a deep breath and said coldly, "I'd like to see how powerful Heavenly Monarch Du and the others are." Whoosh. The next moment, Ningyu's body flickered as he flew directly towards the Violet Orchid Weave. Rong Tianjun and Ning Lu looked at each other and saw a trace of seriousness in each other's eyes. The Violet Orchid Weave had at least 3 peak Heavenly Monarchs. Among them, Heavenly Monarch Du from the Immortal Court was especially powerful. This trip to the Violet Orchid Weave was bound to be a disaster. The Violet Orchid Weave was a super weave. The capital of the Violet Orchid Weave was called Violet Orchid City. Compared to Kuin-Su City, Violet Orchid City was much larger. Among the super weaves, Kuin-Su could only be ranked below average, but the Violet Orchid Weave could be ranked in the top 10. At this moment, in a grand palace in the center of Violet Orchid City, there were 3 martial artists in the palace. If Ming Hao was here, he would have noticed that he had seen all 3 of them before. Marvelous mathematician, Thunder Elixir King, Heavenly Monarch Du. Crack! How dare they? Heavenly Monarch Du raised his right hand and smashed the sandalwood table and chair beside him. He said coldly, "Marvelous mathematician, tell me who killed Qian Linkong. Was it that useless Rong Hao?" Swoosh! Marvelous mathematician took out a tortoise shell and tossed it into the air. He waved his hands, and 2 rays of cold light shot out of his sleeves and entered the tortoise shell. Crack! Crack! Not long after, 3 fine cracks appeared on the tortoise shell. Crack! The cracks disappeared as quickly as they appeared. In the blink of an eye, the cracks closed up. At this time, 2 golden words appeared on the back of the tortoise shell. Ningyu. Looking at the 2 words on the tortoise shell, Heavenly Monarch Du's face was extremely cold. He had thought that Qian Lingkong's death had something to do with Rong Hao and had used a secret technique to contact him. He believed that Rong Hao would come to the Violet Orchid Weave soon. Who would have thought? The culprit was not Rong Hao, but someone called Ningyu. Rong Hao cannot escape the responsibility of Qian Lingkong's death. Marvelous mathematician put away the tortoise shell and said in a low voice, "If I'm not wrong, when Ningyu killed Qian Lingkong, he used the heaven-reaching disc." The heaven-reaching disc. Hearing this, Heavenly Monarch Du's face changed. He was from the Immortal Court, so he naturally knew what the heaven-reaching disc was. The national treasure of Rong Hao's celestial kingdom was the heaven-reaching disc. Send people to chase them to the Violet Orchid Weave. Heavenly Monarch Du said coldly. "No need." Marvelous mathematician waved his hand and said, "They have already reached the Violet Orchid Weave." Reached the Violet Orchid Weave? Heavenly Monarch Du was slightly stunned. Clearly, he did not expect that Rong Hao and Ningyu would dare to enter the tiger's den. That's good. Let them have a look around the Violet Orchid Weave first. Heavenly Monarch Du regained his composure and said calmly, "Marvelous mathematician, seal off the Violet Orchid Weave. Thunder Pellet King, and I will refine this Immortal King pill first." No problem. Marvelous mathematician stepped onto the ground and immediately left the hall. In order to refine the Immortal King pill, they had expended a great deal of energy and resources. Now that the Immortal King pill was about to be refined, Heavenly Monarch Du and Thunder Pellet King would definitely not give up for nothing. In Heavenly Monarch Du's opinion, with Marvelous Mathematician and the many Heavenly Monarchs in the Violet Orchid Weave, capturing Ningyu and Rong Hao should not be a problem. After all, the Violet Orchid Weave was one of the top 10 super weaves, and there were many Heavenly Monarchs in its own weave. With Marvelous Mathematician leading the way in these native Heavenly Monarchs. Even if Ningyu used the heaven-reaching disc to kill Qian Lingkong, it would be difficult for him to gain the upper hand against Marvelous Mathematician and the others. After Marvelous Mathematician left, Heavenly Monarch Du turned to look at Thunder Pellet King and asked in a low voice, "How much longer until the Immortal King pill is refined?" 3 hours. Thunder Pellet King slapped the huge cauldron in front of him and said without turning his head, "During this time, no one can disturb us, or all our efforts will be in vain. Don't worry, with me on guard, no one can come in and disturb you." Chapter 23:33. Russell. At the same time, at the entrance of Zilong City, a group of 5 martial artists appeared. These 5 martial artists were none other than Ningyu, Rong Hao, Ming Hao, the twin-horned beast, and Ning Lu. Rather than waiting for death, it was better to take the initiative. Furthermore, the sky-reaching disc was a mid-stage Immortal King level magic treasure. Plus the white bead Ningyu had, the terrifying energy in his sea of consciousness, and the cultivation of a half-step Lord of Heaven. With so many trump cards, Ningyu was confident that he could fight a real half-step Immortal King. And after staying outside the city gate for too long, Ningyu and Rong Hao went straight into Zilong City. Why is no one coming to cause trouble for us? The twin-horned beast looked around and found it strange that no one was coming. Logically speaking, since Du Tianjun had threatened Rong Hao, they must have known that they were coming to Zilong City. Under such circumstances, no one came to cause trouble. The twin-horned beast was naturally puzzled. Isn't it good that no one came? Ningyu rolled his eyes and said, "Let's find a place to rest first." According to Ningyu's guess, no one came to welcome them, which meant that Du Tianjun and the others were in trouble. No matter what, Ningyu felt that finding a place to stay was the most important thing. As for when Du Tianjun would come, there was no need to think about it for now. Different situations call for different actions. Ningyu wasn't afraid of Du Tianjun and the others. What Ningyu didn't know was that, in fact, they had been targeted by Marvelous Mathematician the moment they entered Zilong City. Originally, Marvelous Mathematician had planned to take down Ningyu immediately, but when he felt the terrifying aura coming from Ningyu, he immediately chose to stop and hide in the void to observe quietly. There are at least 3 auras that make my heart palpitate. Marvelous mathematician's face was solemn. At this time, he finally understood why Qian Lingkong was killed. In a one-on-one fight, even he wasn't absolutely sure that he could defeat Ningyu. Even if all the heavenly lords of Zilan territory came together, it would be difficult to win. There was no other reason. The man behind Ningyu was also at the peak of the Heaven Monarch realm. Furthermore, he sensed a trace of the heavenly demon's aura on that man. It was highly likely that the man was a heavenly demon. How could Rong Hao collude with the sky demon? Frowning, Master God Diviner looked over at Rong Hao. Rong Hao was someone from the Immortal Court. Logically speaking, when the people of the Immortal Court saw the heavenly demons, their first thought would be to kill them. It was absolutely impossible for them to associate with the heavenly demons. Why didn't Rong Hao have the slightest intention of making a move? You two go and probe them out. After thinking for a while, Marvelous Mathematician pointed at the 2 mid-stage Heavenly Monarch realm martial artists and said, "If possible, you'd better fight with that man." Understood. Without any delay, the 2 mid-stage Heavenly Lords who had been selected by the clairvoyant diviner tore through the void and rushed out. Their target wasn't Ningyu or Rong Hao, but Ming Hao. Master Godly Mathematician had asked them to test Ming Hao, so how could they dare to refuse? Whoosh, whoosh. They were so fast that they arrived in front of Ming Hao in the blink of an eye. They clenched their right fists and punched out. Humph! At the critical moment, Ningyu snorted coldly and casually threw 2 punches. Crack! Crack! Ningyu's attack was ruthless, and he didn't hold back at all. 2 crisp sounds rang out consecutively. The 2 middle-stage Heavenly Monarch realm martial artists were sent flying backwards like kites with broken strings. Finally can't take it anymore. After pushing back the 2 mid-stage Heavenly Lords, Ningyu's eyes slowly moved to the sky. In fact, if the 2 mid-stage Heavenly Lords had not made a move, Ningyu really wouldn't have noticed anything. The spatial ripples caused by their attacks allowed Ningyu to instantly locate them. He sorted out his thoughts. Ningyu moved to the front of the 2 mid-stage Heavenly Lords and said indifferently, "Why did you attack me? For no reason. This is Zilan City, and we're the family heads of the Sun family and the Wu family. How dare you go against us? Aren't you afraid that our patriarch will attack you?" The mid-stage Heavenly Lords calmed down quickly. The family head of the Sun family looked at Ningyu coldly and said fiercely, "Our patriarch is at the peak of the late-stage Heavenly Lord." Wu family head said coldly, "Our patriarch is also at the peak of the late-stage Heavenly Lord." Puff! Hearing the threats from the family heads of the Sun and Wu families, Ningyu couldn't help but laugh. Even if they were at the peak of the late-stage Heavenly Lord, he wouldn't need to spend too much energy to kill them. "What are you laughing at?" The family head of the Sun family said in a low voice. "I'll inform the patriarch and ask him to come and teach you a lesson." Puff! However, before the family head of the Sun family could finish his words, he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. No one knew when. Ningyu had already arrived in front of him and stretched out his hand to slap his cheek. Slap! 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 Crisp sounds came from the family head of the Sun family's face. After a while, Ningyu withdrew his palm and complained, "You're really thick-skinned. My hand hurts a little." Puff! She was slapped by Ningyu in public and ridiculed to the extreme. The family head of the Sun family was so angry that he spat out another mouthful of blood. "I'm going to grind your bones into ashes." The family head of the Sun family was so angry that he said, with a ferocious face, "If you offend the Sun family, you'll be..." Puff! However, before the family head of the Sun family could finish his words, he felt his body lighten and flew backward. "Who do you think you're to talk to me like this?" Ningyu chased after him and raised his right foot, stepping heavily on the chest of the family head of the Sun family. Crack, crack, crack! Ningyu's foot was extremely powerful. Several of the family head of the Sun family's ribs were broken by Ningyu on the spot. "Don't go too far." Seeing the family head of the Sun family's miserable state, the family head of the Wu family's face was extremely cold. He first looked back at the sky, then turned to stare at Ning Yu and said fiercely, "This is the Purple Orchid City, not Puff." The result was the same. The family head of the Wu family's ribs were broken. However, it was not Ning Yu who attacked this time, but Ming Hao. He really is a heavenly demon. In the sky, the marvelous mathematician's face turned a little pale. To find out if Ming Hao was a heavenly demon, he had lost 2 mid-stage Lord Heavenly Realm martial artists at once. This price was too high. Today is not a good day. The marvelous mathematician quickly took out his turtle shell and did some calculations. Then, he made a prompt decision to go back first. He could feel it. Ming Hao was at the peak of the heavenly monarch realm, and the strength that Ning Yu had displayed was equally terrifying. Given his current condition, it was basically impossible for him to defeat Ning Yu and the others. The plan now was not to charge forward, but to return to where Du Tianjun and the Thunder Elixir King were. The marvelous mathematician was known for his flawless calculations. According to his calculations, the Thunder Elixir King would be able to refine the Immortal King Elixir in 3 hours. Chapter 23:34. Swoosh. Master Godly Diviner left without hesitation. Almost in an instant, he disappeared. As for the native heavenly lords of Violet City, they all retreated, just like Master Godly Diviner. They had come here on Master Godly Diviner's orders. Now that Master Godly Diviner had chosen to leave, why would they stay? Furthermore, the fact that Ning Yu could defeat the head of the Sun family with a single move was enough to show how strong he was. They were all early stage or mid-stage heavenly lords. Even if they went against Ning Yu, it would be difficult for them to win. Instead of that, they might as well go back to their own homes. Let's go and find a place to stay. Sweeping a glance at the Sun family's and Wu family's patriarchs, Ning Yu moved his feet and walked forward. The reason why Ning Yu didn't kill them was because he had his own considerations. No matter if it was the Sun clan or the Wu clan, they were the top clans in Violet Orchid City. If the head of such a family was bullied, they would definitely send someone to take revenge. What Ning Yu needed to do was to find a place and wait for the experts of the Sun family and the Wu family to arrive. The fact that the Sun family and the Wu family were able to stand tall in Violet City for so long meant that they had their own strengths. Ming Hao, Rong Hao, and the others followed closely after Ning Yu. The Pleasant Arrival restaurant was located in the most prosperous area of the Violet Orchid Weave. It had 8 floors. To enter the Pleasant Arrival restaurant, one didn't just need money. One also needed to have the appropriate status. Rustle, rustle, rustle. At the same time, in front of the entrance of the Pleasant Arrival restaurant, Ning Yu stopped, looked up and said, "Let's do it here." As soon as he finished speaking, Ning Yu walked straight to the restaurant. However, Ning Yu hadn't even stepped foot into the restaurant when he was stopped by an attendant at the peak of the Saint Immortal Realm. "Please show me your identity." The peak stage, Saint Immortal's servant extended his right hand and blocked Ning Yu's way. Boom! Without waiting for the waiter to finish speaking, Ning Yu's aura suddenly surged out and pressed down on the waiter. Ning Yu is not a hothead. Generally speaking, for a high-class restaurant like this, the conditions to enter were more stringent. He was either a high official or a noble, or had a high cultivation base. It was Ning Yu's first time in Zilong City, so he didn't have much of a relationship with the officials and nobles. He could only slightly display his strength and rely on his own strength to obtain the qualifications to enter. As expected, sensing the aura exuded from Ning Yu, the manservant could not help but gasp. He immediately changed his words and said respectfully, "Sirs, please come in." Whoosh! At the same time, on the 7th floor of the Yu Lai restaurant, in the Supreme Private Room number 3, there were a total of 4 martial artists in the private room. If Ning Yu was here, he would have noticed that he knew 2 of them, the head of the Sun family and the head of the Wu family. As for the other 2 elders, they were the Sun family's ancestor and the Wu family's ancestor. Among them, the head of the Sun family slapped the windowsill and stared at Ning Yu, who was in front of the main entrance of the Yu Lai restaurant. He said in a deep voice, "Ancestor, it's them. Please help me." The Sun family's ancestor moved his feet and went straight to the window. He followed the gaze of the Sun family's ancestor. Pa! As soon as he saw Ningyu, the Sun family's ancestor turned to look at the Sun family's ancestor. He raised his right hand and slapped down fiercely. A crisp sound rang out. The Sun family's ancestor was spun a few times by this slap before he stabilized his body. Ancestor, why did you hit me? The Sun family's ancestor opened his mouth slightly, and his face was full of confusion. He did not expect this to be the result. One had to know. He invited the ancestor to come with the purpose of arresting Ningyu and taking revenge for him. But now, not only did the ancestor not help him, but he also colluded with Ningyu and gave him a slap. Trash! The Sun family's ancestor's face was cold, and he said in a deep voice, "Have you been kicked in the head by a donkey? That young man is not simple. Even I may not be a match for him. How dare you go against him? Have you been blinded by lard?" Ancestor, it's not my fault. The Sun family's ancestor cried. It's all because of marvelous mathematician. You also know that marvelous mathematician is very close to Du Tianjun, and he is also extremely powerful. He summoned all the Lord of Heaven experts in the entire Zilan city. He just happened to choose me and Wu Yong. Don't talk nonsense with me. The Sun family's ancestor kicked the Sun family's ancestor in the butt and said coldly, "Go and invite them here immediately. I will personally apologize." There's no need, right? At this time, the Wu family's ancestor, Wu Yong, frowned slightly and said, "They offended marvelous mathematician. With his character, he will definitely not let them go. If we apologize to him now, isn't it equivalent to standing on the opposite side of marvelous mathematician? Marvelous mathematician, Thunder Elixir King, Du Tianjun, Qian Linkong. These are the four-peak Lord of Heaven experts of Zilan City. Because Du Tianjun came from the Immortal Court, they were extremely domineering and oppressed the native Lord of Zilan City. Going against marvelous mathematician, Wu Yong didn't have the guts for now. Idiot. The Sun family's ancestor said coldly, "Do you know why I and Wu He came out of seclusion?" Wu Yong was startled and turned to look at the Wu family's ancestor, Wu He, with a puzzled expression. Sun Xingye is right. You and Sun Tu go invite them here. We have our own arrangements. Wu He waved his hand, indicating that Wu Yong shouldn't ask so many questions for now and go invite Ningyu and the others here first. All right. Helpless. Wu Yong and Sun Tu could only leave the number 3 box obediently and go to the first floor. Welcome. In the lobby, as soon as Ningyu and Rong Hao came in, a servant in green clothes came to greet them. The green-robed manservant seemed to know Ningyu's strength, so he took the initiative to explain the Pleasant Arrival restaurant has a total of 8 floors. Among them, the first 4 floors are open to Saint Immortal Realm martial artists, while the last 4 floors require Heavenly Monarch Realm cultivation to enter. What's the difference? Ningyu asked. There's a big difference. The servant smiled. The first 4 floors have less dense, immortal chi. 1 day of cultivation in there is equivalent to a month outside. The last 4 floors are not simple. 1 day of cultivation in there is equivalent to a year outside. Of course, the price is also very different. Ningyu didn't expect the Pleasant Arrival restaurant to be so special. He wanted to come here to rest, but since the immortal chi in the Pleasant Arrival restaurant was very dense, he might as well choose the 8th floor and cultivate. The path of cultivation was like rowing a boat against the current. If you don't move forward, you'll fall behind. Not long after, he would have to fight with the marvelous mathematician and the others. As the saying went, sharpening a spear at the last moment was not fast, but it was also good. Ningyu wouldn't miss the opportunity to improve his strength. The 8th floor. Ningyu took out a space ring from his bosom and was about to hand it to the green-robed servant. Haha, enter the 8th floor? What a bumpkin. Can anyone enter the 8th floor? Chapter 23:35. Swoosh. Ningyu put away the spatial ring and looked in the direction of the sound. He saw a group of 3 to 4 young martial artists walking toward the entrance of the Pleasant Arrival restaurant. Early stage, Heavenly Lord. The cultivation of these young martial artists was not very high. The tallest among them was a crew-cut man who was only an early-stage heavenly lord. As for the other three young martial artists, their cultivation ranged from early stage to late stage Saint Immortal. Russell. Not long after, the man with the flat-top haircut stood in front of Ningyu and said with his nose in the air, "How can the 8th floor be entered by just anyone? You should take a piss and look at yourself in the mirror if you want to enter the 8th floor." You. The double-horned demonic beast was enraged. Huh? The crew-cut man raised his eyebrows and looked at the demonic beast sinisterly. You're just a peak stage, Saint Immortal demonic beast. If you dare to behave atrociously in front of me again, I'll break your horn and make soup out of it. You're courting death. The double-horned demonic beast figure flashed, and he charged out. This was too much. No, it was too much. He had never been bullied like this ever since he followed Rong. How out of the immortal I see him. You're overestimating yourself. The crew-cut man smirked as he looked at the double-horned demonic beast that was charging at him. He clenched his right fist and suddenly punched out. Bang! In an instant, the crew-cut man's fist landed on the demonic beast's chest. The enormous force caused the twin-horned demonic beast to fly back several meters before coming to a stop. Not bad. You can actually block a punch with 30% of my strength. The crew-cut man shrugged and said indifferently, "Let me give you a piece of advice. If you know what's good for you, get lost. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that something unpleasant will happen." With that said, the crew-cut man walked toward the 2nd floor without looking back. Swoosh! At this moment, Ningyu moved quickly and appeared in front of the crew-cut man in the blink of an eye, blocking his way. You have to leave something behind after beating someone up. Ningyu's expression was indifferent and emotionless. Are you sure you're talking to me? The man with the flat top pointed at his nose and said, "Do you know who my father is? My father is the patriarch of the Wongs of the Xylan Weave. You're doomed to suffer for offending me." Voila! The words of the flat-top man immediately caused a great uproar in the main hall of the pleasant arrival restaurant. The Wongs. This was one of the most powerful clans in the Violet Orchid Weave. The family head, Wong Lion, was a mid-stage heavenly monarch realm expert. In Violet Orchid City, offending other families, even if they were more terrifying than the Wongs, would give them a chance to live. However, once they offended the Wongs, only death awaited them. I don't care if you were from the Wongs or the Zhaos. In short, since you injured my friend, you'll have to leave your arms behind. Ningyu didn't care about a mere Wongs, not to mention the head of the Wongs. Even if Master Godly Diviner came, Ningyu would make the crew-cut man pay the price. I'd like to see how you are going to leave my arms behind today. The crew-cut man stretched out his hands and placed them in front of Ningyu's eyes. Cut off my arms if you can. If you don't, you won't crack. Crack! Before the crew-cut man could finish his words, Ningyu stretched out his right hand and slashed at his arms. 2 consecutive cracking sounds rang out. The crew-cut man's arms fell to the ground at the same time. You. The crew-cut man didn't expect Ningyu to be so ruthless as to cut off his arms on the spot. You're finished. No one in this world can save you. The crew-cut man let out a hysterical roar. Stop shouting. Ningyu rolled his eyes and said, "I thought you were powerful. It turns out that you're just a wax figure with a silver spear. You look good, but you're useless." Through this fight, Ningyu roughly estimated the cultivation level of the crew-cut man. He was not at the early stage of Lord of Heaven, but at the peak of Saint Immortal. The reason why the crew-cut man exuded an aura of early-stage Lord of Heaven was that he had left behind a middle-stage Lord of Heaven in his cuffs. The double-horned demonic beast was defeated by him because of the 2 tricks in his cuffs. Otherwise, how could the double-horned demonic beast, which was ranked at the top of the Lord of Heaven's substitute list, be defeated in 1 move? Gulp! Seeing Ningyu cut off the crew-cut man's arms, the green-clothed manservant couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. To be honest, when Ningyu said he was going to enter the 8th floor, he looked down on him and thought Ningyu was bragging. After all, if one wanted to enter the 8th floor, not only would he have to pay a large number of heavenly elixirs, his cultivation level would also have to reach the terrifying peak of Lord of Heaven. But seeing Ningyu defeat the crew-cut man mercilessly, the green-clothed manservant finally came to his senses. These people in front of him were not easy to deal with. Taking a deep breath and forcing himself to calm down, the green-clothed manservant said to Ningyu, "The conditions to enter the 8th floor are 1,000 heavenly elixirs, and your cultivation level must reach the peak of Lord of Heaven." "No problem." Ningyu took out a space ring and threw it to the green-clothed manservant. After killing Qian Lingkong, Ningyu obtained a lot of heavenly elixirs from him. Ningyu could even take out 10,000 heavenly elixirs, let alone 1,000 heavenly elixirs. Courting death. Just as Ningyu handed over the heavenly elixirs, an old man tore through the void and dashed towards him. As the old man charged, he said coldly, "How dare you hurt my only son? I think you must be tired of living." "It's the family head of the Wangs, Wang Laihan. They are in danger this time. Even Wang Laihan has taken the initiative to attack. It seems like they're going to die." Sai, who asked them to be so blind as to provoke Wang Laihan's only son. "That's right. They deserve it. They deserve to die." When the martial artists in the hall saw Wang Laihan, they began to discuss. However, they did not think highly of Ningyu and thought that Ningyu and the rest would definitely die. Offending Wang Laihan was no different from courting death. Swoosh! Swoosh! In a split second, two figures dashed out from the top of the restaurant. Bang! Bang! The target of these two figures was not Ningyu, but Wang Laihan. Two kicks landed on Wang Laihan's chest and back. Puffed. Fresh blood spurted out. Wang Laihan lay on the ground like a dead dog, his face extremely pale. "Who is it? Who saved them?" "Sun family head, Sun Tu, Wu family head, Wu Yong." "Why do they help these people?" Sun Tu and Wu Yong's attack had the crowd discussing. Except for them. Even Ningyu and Rong Hao were surprised. One should know, not long ago, on the streets of Violet City, Sun Tu and Wu Yong were defeated by Ningyu and Ming Hao. At that time, they could only return to their families after Ningyu and the rest had left. But now, why did they help Ningyu? Chapter 23:36. Sun Tu, Wu Yong. Wang Laihan struggled to stand up from the ground. He wiped the blood off the corner of his mouth and said, "The Wangs have always minded their own business. Why did you attack me? Who said that we can't attack you just because we mind our own business?" Sun Tu said coldly, "In this world, the strong rule. If we want to attack you, we can. If you don't agree, you can fight back." "You." Wang Laihan was so angry that his nose was crooked. Fight back? Not to mention that he couldn't defeat Sun Tu. Even if he could, he wouldn't dare to go head-on with Sun Tuesday. There was no other reason. In Zilong City, the Sun family was much more powerful than the Wangs. If they offended the Sun family, the Wangs were destined to suffer. "Let's go." Wang Laihan's face was gloomy. He then said to the youth with a crew cut, "Let's not stay here and be an eyesore." Swish. However, before Wang Laihan could leave with the youth with the crew cut, Sun Tu's figure flashed and stood in front of him. "Did I say you can leave?" Sun Tu looked at Wang Laiyan coldly and said, "You can leave, but you have to get Ningyu's forgiveness." Ningyu's forgiveness? Hearing Sun Tu's words, all the martial artists in the hall shifted their attention to Ningyu. Who was Ningyu? Sun Tu and Wu Yong were the family heads of the Sun family and Wu family respectively. In Zilong City, there were only a few people who could invite both of them at the same time. The aura that Ningyu emitted wasn't at the peak of the Heaven Monarch realm. Could it be that Ningyu had a backer? Damn it! Wang Laihan couldn't help but curse. Ningyu injured his only son, and now Sun Tu wanted him to plead with Ningyu. This was intolerable. Wang Laihan took a step forward and said coldly, "Sun Tu, don't think I'm afraid of you." Sun Tu ignored Wang Laihan. Instead, he looked at Ningyu and asked, "How do we resolve this matter? Whatever they want to do to me, you'll do to them." Ningyu appeared to be quite calm as he said indifferently. At first, when Sun Tu and Wu Yong appeared, Ningyu was a little puzzled. He had no idea what they were up to. But when he noticed that there were two strands of perception on the seventh floor of the pleasant arrival restaurant that had noticed him, he came to a complete understanding. The ancestors of the Sun family and the Wu family wanted to express their goodwill through this method. Since they had chosen to be friendly, Ningyu decided to wait and see what they were up to. Understood. Sun Tu and Wu Yong glanced at each other before moving in unison. Whoosh, whoosh. The two of them were very fast. In the blink of an eye, they arrived in front of Wang Lihan. He clenched his right fist and punched out. Damn it! Wang Lihan could not help but curse when he saw Sun Tu and Wu Yong attacking him together. However, although he cursed, Wang Lihan did not dare to be careless. Facing two experts of the same cultivation level, Wang Lihan immediately displayed his absolute trump card. Crack! Crack! Unfortunately, Sun Tu and Wu Yong also displayed their trump cards. Two consecutive crisp sounds rang out. Like a kite with its string cut, Wang Lihan was sent flying backwards. Wang Lihan did not stop until he hit the ground. Lowering his head to look at his broken fist, Wang Lihan's heart sank to the bottom. He thought that Sun Tu and Wu Yong would choose to hold back. Who would have thought that both of them would use their absolute trump cards? He was not a match for them one-on-one, let alone one against two. Die! After succeeding in his first move, Sun Tu immediately launched a second attack. The true energy in his body gathered on his fist. Sun Tu punched at Wang Lihan's head. Whoosh! On the other side, Wu Yong launched an attack at Wang Lihan's son, the youth with a crew cut. Boom! Boom! Almost at the same time, Wang Lihan and the youth with a crew cut died tragically. Hiss! The death of Wang Lihan and the youth with a crew cut made all the martial artists in the area gasp. They were very clear. Wang Lihan's death meant that the Sun and Wu families had officially declared war on the Wangs. After all, Wang Lihan was the family head of the Wangs. If the family head could be killed, then the Wangs would lose their foothold in the Violet Orchid City. Ningyu, our Lao Zu invites you to come. In killing Wang Lihan, Sun Tu seemed to have done something insignificant. He went straight to Ningyu and said, I wonder if you can do me the honor. Lead the way. Ningyu did not reject and said directly, Sha Sha. After getting Ningyu's affirmation, Sun Tu and Wu Yong hurried to the second floor of Yulai Restaurant. As for Ningyu, Rong Hao, and the rest, they followed closely behind. Hey, does anyone know that Ningyu? Who the hell is he? I'm not sure. He doesn't seem to be from the Violet Orchid City. Ignorant and ill-informed. A martial artist at the peak of the Saint Immortal realm snorted coldly and said in a deep voice, even Ningyu doesn't know about it. Not long ago, Ningyu defeated Sun Tu and Wu Yong in a domineering manner and beat them up so badly. What? Hearing the words of this martial artist at the peak of the Saint Immortal stage, the surrounding onlookers were shocked. The incident that happened not long ago did not spread due to the fact that the Sun and Wu families had kept it under wraps. If this martial artist at the peak of the Saint Immortal stage was not present, he would probably not know about it. The people in the main hall exclaimed. Ningyu did not know about it. However, even if Ningyu knew about it, he would just laugh it off. There would be onlookers everywhere. The chatter of the onlookers had nothing to do with him. Dong dong. Not long after, Ningyu, Sun Tu, and the rest arrived at the door of the No. 3 Supreme Room on the 7th floor of a Yulai restaurant. Sun Tu knocked on the door and said, Old ancestor, Ningyu is here. Creak. As Sun Tu's words fell, the door of the number 3 Supreme Room opened slowly from the inside. As soon as the door was opened, Ningyu saw 2 old men appearing in his sight. Peak stage Heavenly Lord. Seeing the old men, Ningyu could not help but frown. Sun Tu and Wu Yong previously said that their old ancestor was at the peak of the late stage Heavenly Lord. However, it seemed that Sun Tu and Wu Yong had lied. Or rather, even Sun Tu and Wu Yong did not know the true cultivation of their old ancestor. Not simple. While Ningyu was sizing up Sun Xinya and Wu He, they were also sizing up Ningyu. Especially when they sensed the faint aura on Ningyu's body. Sun Xingye and Wu He looked at each other and saw a hint of seriousness in each other's eyes. At this moment, there were only 3 words in their minds. They had made the right bet. Ningyu was indeed not simple. Moreover, apart from Ningyu, the 2 men behind Ningyu were not simple either. Let me introduce myself first. I'm Sun Xingye, the old ancestor of the Sun clan. Chapter 23:37. Are you going to discuss something important with me here? Ningyu didn't ask anything, but shrugged his shoulders. Ha! Sun Xingye slapped his head and said, "Look at my bad memory. Please come in." Saying this, Sun Xingye moved aside and led Ningyu and the rest into the private room. Creak! After closing the door, Sun Xingye took out a scroll and tossed it into the air. Whoosh! The scroll cracked open. For beams of light burst out and stood at the 4 corners of the room. A soundproof formation. The scroll that Sun Xingye took out was called a soundproof scroll. After activating it, it would form a soundproof formation around the room. Unless the other party's cultivation was higher than Sun Xingye's, they would not be able to hear the conversation inside. You're quite thoughtful. Ningyu found a chair and sat down. Rong Hao, Ming Hao, the double-horned beast, and Ning Lu found their own chairs and sat down. It's better to be safe. Sun Xingye smiled and signaled Sun Tu and Wu Yong with his eyes. Sun Tu and Wu Yong understood and immediately left the private room, choosing to stand guard outside the private room. I've called you here to discuss how to deal with the marvelous mathematician. Sun Xingye did not beat around the bush. He went straight to the point and said, I've learned that you've killed Qian Linkong through a special channel. Knowing the marvelous mathematician and the others, they will not let you go. Special channel? Ningyu frowned. Ningyu was not too interested in the cooperation that Sun Xingye had mentioned. After all, with his current strength, unless one of the marvelous mathematician and the others had reached the half-step Immortal King realm, he would have the absolute advantage. On the contrary, Ningyu was very interested in the special channel that Sun Xingye mentioned. After all, apart from the few people present, only the marvelous mathematician's faction knew that he had killed Qian Linkong. If Sun Xingye was able to obtain such confidential information, didn't that mean that he was in contact with the marvelous mathematician's faction? I don't think I need to tell you that. At the side, Wu He said indifferently, Let's go. Ningyu stood up on the spot and walked outside. Wu He's overbearing attitude made Ningyu very unhappy. You came to me to discuss some matters, but you used this kind of attitude, as if you were arrogant. Don't. Seeing that Ningyu was about to leave, Sun Xingye hurriedly said, If you leave, don't ever come back. Wu He waved his hand and interrupted Sun Xingye's words. He turned to Ningyu and said solemnly, I have received reliable news that the Thunder Pill King is currently concocting the Immortal King Pill. Once the Immortal King Pill is successfully concocted, there's an 80% to 90% chance that Du Tianjun will attempt to break through to the Immortal King realm. Although this place isn't the Immortal Court and can't accommodate Immortal King experts, with Heavenly Monarch Du's ability, he can completely suppress his cultivation base to the half-step Immortal King realm. Even a half-step Immortal King shouldn't have too much of a problem dealing with you. Sha. Ningyu stopped. He turned around and looked at Wu He. Thank you for the reminder. You. Ningyu's indifferent attitude infuriated Wu He. He snorted coldly and said sinisterly, You really don't know what's good for you. You think that you could do whatever you want after killing Qian Linkong. To tell you the truth, Qian Linkong is the weakest among the 4. Even if I were to fight him, I could win easily. Right? Double quotation mark. So what? Ningyu said calmly. Looks like you won't cry if I don't supervise you. Fine, I'll show you what I'm made of. Wu He's face turned cold. He immediately stomped on the ground and dashed out. Swoosh! Wu He arrived in front of Ningyu in the blink of an eye. He clenched his right fist and punched towards Ningyu's head. It was obvious. The power of Wu He's punch was extremely strong. Looking at Wu He, who was dashing towards him, Ningyu stood on the spot with an indifferent expression. Bang! The instant Wu He arrived in front of him, Ningyu clenched his right fist and punched out. It was accompanied by a muffled sound. A figure was sent flying backward like a kite with a broken string. Wu-He. Obviously. The figure that flew backwards wasn't Ningyu, but Wu-He. Wu-He spat out a mouthful of dark red blood. His face became extremely pale and bloodless. How can you be so strong? Wu-He stared at Ningyu in horror and said, not long ago, when you killed Qian Linkong, you could only fight evenly with him. You even had to borrow the Immortal King level disc to kill him. How come only a few hours have passed, and you become so powerful? Your strength has increased to such a level. Humph. Ningyu snorted coldly. He stared fixedly at Wu-He and said coldly, you seem to know everything about me. So what if I do? Wu-He wiped the blood off the corner of his mouth and said angrily, tell me, how did you know about it? Tell me honestly, Yi Zichen said. Ningyu's aura suddenly erupted and pressed towards Wu-He. There must be something wrong with this abnormal situation. Ningyu didn't believe that Wu-He and the others really wanted to cooperate with him. Since they were so clear about their own affairs, it meant that there was definitely someone instructing them from behind the scenes. It was imperative to find out who was behind Wu-He and the others. Creak. However, as soon as Ningyu's aura was released, the door of the number 3 box slowly opened from the outside. Then, a man in blue robes walked straight in. The man in blue stopped in front of Ningyu and said calmly, Wu-He and Sun Xingya are my people. Can you give me some face? Peak of Lord of Heaven. Seeing the man in blue, Ningyu put away his contempt and his expression became extremely serious. The man in blue was at the peak of Lord of Heaven, different from Sun Xingya and Wu-He. In other words, even if Sun Xingya and Wu-He joined forces, they would definitely not be a match for the man in blue. Against Sun Xingya and the others, the man in blue might only need to use 10% or 20% of his strength to win easily. It was obvious. The overall strength of the man in blue was even stronger than the marvelous mathematician who had been hiding in the void not long ago. Let me introduce myself first. I am Tai Feng, the city lord of Violet City. The man in blue smiled at Ningyu and said, I asked Sun Xingya and the others to invite you here for a simple reason. I want to join forces with you to deal with the marvelous mathematician and the others. I really want to know why you know so much about me. Ningyu asked. That's simple. Tai Feng took out a bronze mirror and a strand of hair and placed it on the bronze mirror. Buzz. As soon as the hair was placed on the bronze mirror, an image appeared on the surface of the mirror. It was the scene of Ningyu and Qian Linkong fighting. 3 Realms Divine Mirror. Seeing the image on the bronze mirror, Rong Hao's eyes widened and his face was full of disbelief. Staring at Tai Feng, Rong Hao said in horror, You are from the Ironwood tribe. Chapter 23:38. Just say it. How do you want to cooperate? Ningyu waved his hand and said lightly. He didn't know much about the Ironwood race, nor did he want to. After all, his enemies were the marvelous mathematician and the Thunder Pellet King, not the Ironwood race. Straightforward. Tai Feng smiled. The cooperation is simple. When the Thunder Pellet King succeeds in refining the Immortal King elixir, we will attack together and snatch the Immortal King elixir. Without the Immortal King elixir, Heavenly Monarch Du and the others are no longer a threat. Let's go. Ningyu stood up and walked out of the room. Since Tai Feng didn't have any sincerity, there was no need for him to stay. If he wanted to cooperate, he would have to act like he was cooperating. Otherwise, who would be willing to cooperate if he only wanted others to help but didn't want to do anything himself? Ningyu. Seeing that Ningyu was about to leave, Rong Hao quickly stopped him and said in a low voice, The Ironwood race is a mysterious race in the Immortal Court. It is rumored that they have a special spring water, the Ironwood Divine Spring. Any Heaven Monarch expert who takes the Ironwood Divine Spring, any Heavenly Monarch Realm expert who takes the Ironwood Divine Spring can easily advance a level. Ningyu stopped in his tracks and looked at Rong Hao. Rong Hao continued, The Ironwood Divine Spring is not only useful for Heavenly Monarch Realm experts, but also for half-step Heavenly Monarch Realm experts like you. Once you take the Ironwood Divine Spring, you will have a 100% chance of advancing to the Heavenly Monarch Realm. 100% chance? Ningyu was finally moved. Ordinary half-step Heavenly Monarch realm experts had to go through the Heavenly Monarch tribulation before breaking through to the Heavenly Monarch realm. How terrifying was the Heavenly Monarch tribulation? Even he was not absolutely sure that he could survive the tribulation of Lord of Heaven. Now, there was an ironwood divine spring that could help martial artists pass the Heavenly Monarch tribulation unconditionally. I would not be shocked. However, although he was shocked, Ningyu didn't show it too much. He had made up his mind. Unless Typhon was able to delay the entire plan, he would definitely not stay here. He did have a grudge against Marvelous Mathematician and the others, but he didn't want to help others. Young hero Ning, why are you so angry? Typhon seemed to have already guessed Ningyu's actions. He smiled faintly and took out a jade bottle from his bosom. Whoosh! With a flick of his wrist, the jade bottle flew towards Ningyu. Ha! Ningyu raised his right hand and steadily caught the jade bottle. This is the Ironwood Divine Spring. It's a gift for our cooperation. Typhon pointed at the jade bottle and said, as for the specific plan, I can't make the decision for now, because the mastermind behind the scenes is not me, but my father, Tai Muyu. Tell me about it. Ningyu's expression softened a little as he sensed the aura emanating from the liquid in the jade bottle. Since Typhon was willing to bleed, then there was still room for discussion. Otherwise, there wouldn't even be a need to talk. Do you think Master, Godly Diviner, Thunder Pill King, and Heavenly Lord Du are our main targets? Typhon did not answer Ningyu directly, but asked in return. Oh, Ningyu raised an eyebrow. From Typhon's words, it seemed like the real enemy wasn't Master, Godly Diviner, and the others. Could it be there was a big shot behind Master, Godly Diviner, and Thunder Pill King that had yet to show up? The more Ningyu thought about it, the more likely it was. Otherwise, with Typhon's strength and the heaven-defying spring water, there was no reason why he couldn't invite a few powerful cultivators like him. The Heavenly Lord you mentioned is called Du Shibing. He has an uncle called Du Shida, the Imperial Preceptor of the Soaring Sky, Immortal Kingdom. Typhon thought for a moment and said, the Soaring Sky, Immortal Kingdom, and the Ironwood race are very close to each other. Originally, both sides minded their own business. But who would have thought that Du Shida would suddenly gather the army of the Soaring Sky, Immortal Kingdom, and attack our Ironwood race tens of thousands of years ago? That battle shook the heavens and the earth, and merely an entire 7 half-step Immortal King realm experts perished in battle. Moreover, the Immortal Kings of the Ironwood race and the Soaring Sky Immortal Kingdom were gravely injured and didn't recover for tens of thousands of years. Ningyu listened quietly and didn't interrupt. Typhon continued. After that battle, the Ironwood race and the Soaring Sky Immortal Kingdom suffered a devastating blow, and both sides decided to stop fighting. Unexpectedly, Du Shida led a sneak attack on the Ironwood race. Not only did he snatch away a lot of the Ironwood Divine Spring, he even killed the only immortal king of the Ironwood race. Ka. Speaking up to here, Typhon paused for a moment and clenched his fists so hard that cracking sounds could be heard. It was obvious. Typhon was extremely angry and wanted nothing more than to grind Du Shida's bones to ashes. After a few minutes, Typhon's expression eased a little, and he continued, my father, Tai Muyu, left the Immortal Court with the remaining members of the Ironwood race and came to the Violet Orchid territory. Recently, I received news that Du Shida came out from the Immortal Court and wanted to do something big. After coming out of the Immortal Court, I've gathered all the members of the Ironwood clan to deal Du Shida a fatal blow. After listening to Typhon's words, Ningyu couldn't calm down for a long time. He didn't know how to judge the fate of the Ironwood race. It was hard to say who was right and who was wrong in the war tens of thousands of years ago. However, Ningyu was very clear about the current situation. Behind Du Shibing, there was still Du Shida, and Du Shida's strength must be extremely strong. Otherwise, someone as strong as Typhon would definitely not choose to cooperate with him. After all, Typhon's father, Tai Muyu, was still alive. What is Du Shida's strength? How many people in your Ironwood race can fight, and what are their strengths? After thinking about it, Ningyu still asked. Since they were going to cooperate, he must know the true strength of the enemy and the strength of his people. Dushita is a half-step immortal king. On our side, my father, Tai Muyu, is a half-step immortal king. I am a peak heavenly monarch. Other than me, there are 4 or 5 peak heavenly monarch experts, Tai Feng said. How many peak heavenly monarchs are there on Dushita's side? Ningyu continued to ask. Other than godly diviner, thunder pellet king, Du Shibing, there are 10 peak heavenly monarch experts. Tai Feng didn't hide anything from Ningyu. Those 10 peak heavenly monarch experts are the top experts of the endless sky immortal kingdom. None of them are weaker than me. I can't believe it. Ningyu cursed on the spot. None of them are weaker than you? Then what's the point of fighting? Tai Feng's battle prowess is extremely strong. Ningyu was confident, but he wasn't a rash person. With his current combat strength, the mid-stage immortal king disc, the white pearl, and the energy in his sea of consciousness, he could probably defeat 3 Tai Fengs. However, even so, it was useless. 4 or 5 peak heavenly monarchs against 10, no, 13, including godly diviner and the others. The strength of both sides was not equal. There was no point in continuing to fight. I can give each of them a portion of the Ironwood Divine Spring. Chapter 23:39. Gulp. Ronghao swallowed a mouthful of saliva on the spot. Although he came from the immortal court and was an expert from a certain immortal kingdom, who didn't want the Ironwood Divine Spring? His current cultivation was at the late stage of Heaven Monarch. Once he consumed the Ironwood Divine Spring, he would definitely advance to the peak of Heaven Monarch realm. If he simply cultivated, he would probably need a long time to advance to the peak of Heaven Monarch realm. Now that the opportunity was right in front of him, how could he not be excited? Swish! He looked at Ningyu with a face full of hope. Seeing Ronghao's reaction, Ningyu rolled his eyes and said, "Give Ronghao a portion. As for Minghao's Ironwood Divine Spring, leave it to me." Ningyu wasn't a fool. Ronghao could take the Ironwood Divine Spring because Ronghao came from the immortal court and was on the same side as him. Minghao was different. Minghao was a heavenly demon and was still under his control. If Minghao swallowed the Ironwood Divine Spring, his cultivation would skyrocket to an uncontrollable level. Wouldn't that be the end of him? No problem. Tai Feng didn't want to quarrel with Ningyu. He flicked his wrist and threw a portion of the Ironwood Divine Spring to Ningyu and Ronghao. "Thank you." Receiving the Ironwood Divine Spring, Ronghao sat cross-legged and poured it into his mouth. Seeing Ronghao's action, Ningyu and Tai Feng were a little dumbfounded. Wasn't he too impatient? Although the Ironwood Divine Spring could unconditionally increase a Heaven Monarch Realm expert's level, the Ironwood Divine Spring that Tai Feng took out wasn't enough. One portion of the Ironwood Divine Spring was divided into 10 portions by Tai Feng. Ronghao's portion was only 1/10. Boom! The Ironwood Divine Spring entered his stomach. A terrifying aura was suddenly emitted from Ronghao's body. At this moment, Ronghao was ready to break through to the peak of Heaven Monarch Realm. Ka. Ronghao's next action proved that he wasn't impulsive, but had long been prepared. He took out elixirs continuously and threw them into his mouth as if they were free. So many elixirs, even Ningyu was a little surprised. Let's wait and see. Seeing Tai Feng's gaze, Ningyu waved his hand and said, "If Ronghao can advance to the peak stage of the Heaven Monarch realm, he will be a great help." When Ronghao was at the late stage of the Heaven Monarch realm, he could use the disc to fight against the Nether Skull. Although he was defeated in the end, his strength was acknowledged by Ningyu. All right. Tai Feng took a few steps back, giving Ronghao some space to move around. Anyway, there was someone watching over the Thunder Elixir King. Once the Thunder Elixir King concocted an Immortal King pill, he would be the first to receive news. Therefore, it was not a waste of his time to see if Ronghao could advance to the peak of the Heaven Monarch realm. Drip, drip. Time is ticking away. In the blink of an eye, an hour passed. Poochie. When the second hour arrived, Ronghao opened his mouth and suddenly spat out a mouthful of dark red blood. The Ironwood Divine Spring is not enough. Typhon looked at Ningyu and said, I only have 3 bottles of Ironwood Divine Spring water on me. Even if I go back now, it will be too late. I know what you mean. Ningyu rolled his eyes at Typhon. He then took out 2 bottles of Ironwood Divine Spring water and threw them to Rong Hao. Ningyu would not be stingy with just 2 bottles of Ironwood Divine Spring water. After all, Rong Hao had even given him the disc unconditionally. It was not a big deal for him to give up a few bottles of Ironwood Divine Spring water. Crack! Crack! As it was a critical moment, Rong Hao did not thank Typhon. He immediately swallowed the 2 bottles of Ironwood Divine Spring water. Boom! The Ironwood Divine Spring water entered his stomach. An extremely terrifying aura burst out from Rong Hao's sea of consciousness and soared into the sky. Bang! 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 A series of muffled sounds could be heard. Rong Hao suddenly opened his eyes and stood up from the ground. Boom! Another even more terrifying aura gushed out. Peak of the Heaven Monarch Realm. The rise of this aura meant that Rong Hao's cultivation had reached the terrifying peak of the Heaven Monarch Realm. Thank you. After advancing to the peak of the Heaven Monarch Realm, Rong Hao immediately retracted his aura and thanked Ningyu and Typhon. If not for Typhon and Ning Yu's Ironwood Divine Spring, it would have been difficult for him to advance to the peak of the Heaven Monarch Realm. What are you thanking me for? Ningyu casually waved his hand and said, We're in the same boat. I hope that you can be stronger and protect me when the time comes. Rong Hao nodded his head heavily and did not continue speaking. A great favor could not be thanked with words. As for the disc, it had already recognized its owner, and he could not take it back. Now that Ningyu had given him 2 bottles of Ironwood Divine Spring, which allowed him to advance to the peak of the Heaven Monarch Realm successfully, this favor alone was enough for him to repay for a long time. There is still about 2 hours before the Thunder Elixir King can refine the Immortal King Elixir. Why don't I introduce you to the others first? Seeing that Rong Hao had successfully advanced, Typhon said timely, This time, we need to work together to encircle Du Shida and the others. If there is a problem, it will be serious. No problem. Ningyu did not reject Typhon. Actually, Typhon was right. Since they were going to cooperate, they had to have a clear understanding of each other's strength. Otherwise, if there was a problem in any of the links, the consequences would be very serious. Double-horned demonic beast, Ning Lu, go into the Red Devil Sword for now. Before they left, Ningyu said to the double-horned demonic beast and Ning Lu. Regardless of whether it was the double-horned demonic beast or Ning Lu, they were not particularly strong. They might be able to deal with ordinary martial artists at the peak of the Saint Immortal stage, but against a Heaven Monarch Realm expert, the 2 of them would be no different from cannon fodder. Be careful. Ning Lu knew the severity of the situation. Then, with a flash of his body, he entered the Red Devil Sword. As for the double-horned demonic beast, he looked at Rong Hao and then at Ningyu. In the end, he went into the Red Devil Sword with Ning Lu. After all, he was used to staying in the Red Devil Sword, and there was someone talking to him in the Red Devil Sword. He was not used to going back to Rong Hao. Ungrateful wretch. Rong Hao rolled his eyes and joked. Ningyu, I guess it won't be long before the double-horned demonic beast can become one with you and completely betray me. Don't. Ningyu also made a rare joke and said, I don't like demonic beasts, and I already have someone I like. You can keep the double-horned demonic beast for yourself. Rong Hao was stunned, as if he thought of the ambiguity in Ning Yu's words, and his face turned a little dark. Sha. Ning Yu hurriedly left the room as if he was escaping. Typhon and Rong Hao followed closely. Currently, Ning Yu and the others were on the 7th floor of the ULI restaurant, in the number 3 Supreme Room. Soon, they arrived on the 8th floor, in front of the number 2 Supreme Room. Rong Hao looked at the big words on the door of the room and said, doubtfully, This is the highest floor called the number 2 Supreme Room. Could there be a number 1 Supreme Room on the higher floor? Country bumpkin. As soon as Rong Hao finished speaking. Chapter 2340. Rong Hao looked back. Not far away, a group of two martial artists was walking towards him. Rong Hao's expression changed slightly when he felt the aura from the two martial artists. Peak stage Heaven Monarch. Obviously, the two martial artists were both at the peak of Heaven Monarch. Rong Hao was very clear. Even if he had reached the peak of Heaven Monarch, it would be hard for him to be a match for these two martial artists. A bumpkin will always be a bumpkin. Rong Hao's reaction made the two martial artists raise the corner of their mouths. They said in a sinister tone, "Inexperienced." Then, the two martial artists looked at Tai Feng and said with dissatisfaction, "Our opponents are very strong this time. Aren't you afraid of making mistakes by inviting these Tom, Dick, and Harry?" Swish. Rong Hao's expression turned ugly when he heard the two martial artists' mockery. "Oh, you have a different opinion?" One of the martial artists in gray saw the change of Rong Hao's expression. The martial artist in gray raised his eyebrows and said, "How about this? I'll give you a fair chance. Let's give each other a punch. If you can make me take half a step back, I'll take back what I said before. Otherwise," the martial artist in gray paused for a moment. Then he continued, "Otherwise, you have to kneel down and crawl under my crotch. It's not good to crawl under your crotch. It's a little impolite." The other martial artist in white held his chin with his right hand and said thoughtfully, "How about this? We'll leave a way out for each other in case we meet again in the future. Let it be a dog. Call him a dog." Ha ha ha. The martial artist in white and the martial artist in gray laughed as they talked. They didn't put Ning Yu and Tai Feng in their eyes at all. "Your family?" Ning Yu looked at Tai Feng and asked. Tai Feng knew what Ning Yu meant. He shook his head gently and said in a low voice, "This time, I invited many martial artists in the peak of Heaven Monarch realm. I almost invited all the martial artists in the peak of Heaven Monarch realm outside the Immortal Court and gave them a lot of benefits to confuse them." "That's good." Without waiting for Tai Feng to finish his sentence, Ning Yu said indifferently. Ning Yu didn't care about Tai Feng's motives. He only needed to know if the gray-clothed and white-clothed warriors were from the Tai Mu family. If that was the case, there was no need for him to do it himself. He could just leave it to Tai Feng. If not, if that was the case, he could personally teach these arrogant people a lesson and let them know that there were some things that could be said and some things that could not be said. "What are you guys whispering about?" The actions of Ning Yu and Tai Feng were seen by the white-clothed martial artist. The white-robed cultivator stretched out his right hand and pointed at Ning Yu. He said, "You?" "Yes, I'm talking about you. Come here and repeat what you just said to me." "Hee hee." Ning Yu smiled. The ignorant were truly fearless. "What are you laughing at?" The martial artist in white looked gloomy and scolded. "You are just a piece of trash at the half-step Heaven Monarch realm. How dare you smile at me? You must be tired of living." "Do you really want to hear it?" Ning Yu asked. "Speak." The martial artist in white released his aura and suddenly pressed down on Ning Yu. "About barking like a dog, you can consider it," Ning Yu said calmly. "At least you know your place." The martial artist in white said coldly. He was prepared. If Ning Yu dared to say anything disrespectful, he would kill him immediately. He didn't need to use too much strength against a half-step Heaven Monarch realm martial artist. However, what Ning Yu said next made his face turn completely cold. "Hurry up. You and the gray-clothed elder go and bark like a dog." Ning Yu waved his hand and said, "My time is limited. I don't want to waste any more time here." "What?" The martial artist in white and the gray-clothed martial artist were furious. After all this time, they were fooled. Ka ka ka. Knowing that they were fooled, the martial artist in white and the gray-clothed martial artist were very angry. They were both peak stage Heaven Monarchs, but they were actually mocked by a half-step Heaven Monarch realm martial artist. If this matter were to be spread out, how could they survive? Therefore, in their opinion, the young man in front of them must die. Swish, swish. Stepping on the ground, the martial artist in white and the gray-clothed martial artist rushed out at the same time. They made up their minds. No matter what, they had to teach the young man in front of them a lesson. Otherwise, they would become the target of ridicule. Bang, bang. However, the martial artist in white and the gray-clothed martial artist just arrived in front of Ning Yu. Before they punched, They felt their bodies become light and flew straight out. Crack! Crack! His body slammed into the stairs, shattering the guardrail. Puff! Ningyu's move was extremely powerful. The martial artist in white and the gray-clothed martial artist spurted a big mouthful of blood at the same time, and their aura dropped sharply. In a short period of time, their aura dropped from peak stage Heaven Monarch Realm to early stage Heaven Monarch Realm. After being defeated by Ningyu in one move, the martial artist in white and the gray-clothed martial artist burst into hysterical roars. They never expected that this young man who was half-stepped to the Heaven Monarch Realm was the real expert. Even if the two of them attacked at the same time, they were still defeated easily. Bark! Ningyu crossed his arms in front of his chest and said to the martial artist in white and the gray-clothed martial artist, "My patience is limited." Hearing Ningyu's request, the martial artist in white and the gray-clothed martial artist clenched their fists in anger. They didn't even care that their nails dug into their palms. They knew very well what Ningyu meant. He asked them to bark like a dog. Don't bark? Seeing that the martial artist in white and the gray-clothed martial artist were not going to compromise, Ningyu turned to Rong Hao and said, "Rong Tianjun, please." Woof woof. Before Ningyu finished speaking, the white-robed cultivator and the gray-robed cultivator let out a series of shouts. While barking, the martial artist in white and the gray-clothed martial artist made up their minds. Today, Ningyu had humiliated them. In the future, they would pay back double. Let's go. Typhon glanced at the martial artist in white and the gray-clothed martial artist and finally chose to give up. Compared to Ningyu, the martial artist in white and the gray-clothed martial artist could be abandoned. Creak! The door of the number 2 Supreme Room was pushed open. Ningyu and Typhon walked in together. As for Rong Hao and Ming Hao, they followed closely and didn't dare to be careless. Bang! After Ningyu, Typhon, and the others entered the number 2 Supreme Room, the martial artist in white and the gray-clothed old man pounded the ground with their right hands. Shameful! So shameful! They thought that they could defeat Ningyu easily. Never did they expect that they would be defeated so easily. The current situation was very unfavorable for them. It was a big problem whether they could enter the number 2 Supreme Room or not. If it didn't go in, they couldn't get the Ironwood Divine Spring. If they went in, they would have to face Ningyu one more time. At this moment, they were in a dilemma. Jia Bin, Zhou Hang, what are you doing? Right at this moment. Chapter 23:41. Swish! The white-clothed martial artist and the gray-clothed martial artist, Jia Bin and Zhou Hang, hurriedly looked to the other side. Russell, not far away, a young martial artist dressed in red was slowly walking towards them. Not long after, the martial artist in red stopped in front of them and asked doubtfully, "In 10 minutes, Typho will distribute the Ironwood Divine Spring. Why didn't he go in?" Jia Bin and Zhou Hang exchanged glances when they saw the cultivator in red. They could see a trace of excitement in each other's eyes. They couldn't pose a threat to Ningyu even if they joined forces. However, the martial artist in red was different. Although the martial artist in red was also at the peak of the Lord of Heaven, his strength was much stronger than theirs. Most importantly, they knew each other before and had a good relationship with the martial artist in red. It couldn't be better to drag the martial artist in red down and let him fight against Ningyu. Jia Bin and Zhou Hang were not indecisive people. They quickly said, "Lin Lang, we met a martial artist at the half-step Lord of Heaven realm. He is stronger than you." Oh, Lin Lang raised his eyebrows. Stronger than him? To be honest, he didn't really believe it. After all, he was at the peak of the Lord of Heaven realm and was known as the strongest under the Immortal King realm. Although he hadn't reached the half-step Immortal King realm, with his current combat strength, he might be able to fight against a half-step Immortal King expert. Even if he couldn't defeat a half-step Immortal King, it wouldn't be a problem for him to escape from one. Now that Jia Bin said that a half-step Lord of Heaven realm martial artist was comparable to him or even stronger than him, how could he believe it? With a faint smile, Lin Lang began moving toward the Sovereign Room too. Wait! Seeing that Lin Lang was about to leave, Jia Bin hurriedly said, That martial artist is really strong. Not only is he much younger than you, but he is also much stronger than you. Russell, Lin Lang stopped and turned around to look at Jia. So what? Air. Jia was slightly taken aback by Lin Lang's question. Yeah, so what? Everything was between them and the young man. It really had nothing to do with Lin Lang. No matter how strong that youth was, Lin Lang didn't need to care. After all, there was no necessary connection between them. We want you to help us deal with him. Jia gritted his teeth and said in a deep voice, as long as you can teach him a lesson, we're willing to give you a share of our ironwood divine spring. Give me a share? Lin Lang looked at Jia with interest and said, I have received accurate news that Tai Feng has changed the distribution of the ironwood divine spring. Let's talk about it when you get it. As he spoke, Lin Lang walked toward Supreme Room 2 without looking back, leaving behind a dumbfounded Jia and Zhou Hang. Change the distribution method? They were the experts invited by Tai Feng this time. Even if there was a change in the distribution method, Tai Feng should have told them about it. Something's wrong. Jia and Zhou Hang quickly reacted. Judging from Tai Feng's reaction when they were defeated, it seemed that Tai Feng had the intention to change the distribution method. Furthermore, the new distribution method would most likely result in them being kicked out. Perhaps they despised them for being too weak, or perhaps they were easily defeated by that youth. Either way, Tai Feng must have changed the distribution method of the Ironwood Divine Spring. Let's go. Jia and Zhou Hang angrily walked toward Supreme Room 2 with a cold expression. When Jia and Zhou Hang dared to enter the Supreme Room 2, they heard a crisp sound. Following the sound, inside the room, a one-eyed old man slapped the seat under him and said coldly, Tai Feng, how dare you go back on your words? Do you think we're easy to bully? Don't be angry. Tai Feng's expression was indifferent, without joy or sorrow. Since we have many people, we must change the distribution method of the Ironwood Divine Spring. The one-eyed old man snorted and said, I don't care about other things, but if anyone wants to compete with me for my share of the Ironwood Divine Spring, feel free to come and try. Thump! Hearing the one-eyed old man's voice, Jia and Zhou Hang's faces turned ugly. What they feared had come true. They came to Violet Orchid City with the purpose of obtaining the Ironwood Divine Spring. Now, Tai Feng had changed the distribution method, which made them extremely angry. It was not just stupid, but something else. Jia and Zhou Hang said coldly, we object to changing the distribution method. You said before that anyone who has reached the peak of the Lord of Heaven can get a bottle of the Ironwood Divine Spring unconditionally. Swish! Jia and Zhou Hang's words attracted the attention of more than a dozen peak Heavenly Monarch Realm experts in Room 2, including Ningyu and Ronghao. A little interesting. Ningyu sat on the chair and said indifferently, do you think Tai Feng will push us out? Ronghao sat beside Ningyu and said in a low voice. In fact, Ronghao's worry was not unreasonable. Tai Feng gave him a bottle of Ironwood Divine Spring, and Ningyu got 2 bottles. Now that the distribution method was changed, anyone would think in this direction. He doesn't have the guts. Ningyu waved his hand, telling Ronghao not to worry. As long as Tai Feng was not a fool, he should know that they were the strongest among the dozens of experts at the peak of the Lord of Heaven present. Ronghao was at the peak of the Lord of Heaven. So was Ming Hao, and he could even fight experts who were half a step to the Immortal King realm. In this case, unless there was something wrong with Tai Feng's head, he would never do something stupid. The facts prove that. Tai Feng's head was not wrong. He casually glanced at Jia and Zhou Hang and said indifferently, the redistribution method is very simple. I will take out a dozen or so crystal balls. Later, you will drop your blood essence on them, and then use your soul force to attack the crystal balls. Whoever can break the formation, I will give you a complete Ironwood Divine Spring unconditionally. Clatter! Tai Feng's words caused a huge uproar in Supreme Room 2. A complete Ironwood Divine Spring? Compared to before, it was 10 bottles. Wasn't the purpose of their coming here for the Ironwood Divine Spring? According to the previous distribution method, a bottle of Ironwood Divine Spring would not be of much use to them. Now, that typhoon took out 10 bottles at once. Although the conditions were extremely harsh, it was not impossible. I will go first. Jabin took a step forward and said in a deep voice, "Take out the crystal ball. I want to see what tricks you are playing." Swish! Typhoon did not talk nonsense. With a flick of his wrist, a crystal ball flew out in an instant. Pa! Jabin caught the crystal ball steadily and directly forced a drop of essence blood on it. Moreover, Chapter 2342. Ningyu, do you think he can break through the array in the crystal ball? Rong Hao asked in a low voice when he saw Jiabin attacking the crystal ball with all his might. Break through the array? Ningyu raised the corner of his mouth and said with a faint smile, "Do you really think Tai Feng is so kind as to give 10 bottles of Ironwood Divine Spring to anyone who can break through the array? Isn't that so?" Rong Hao was slightly startled and asked doubtfully. In Rong Hao's opinion, in order to defeat the state preceptor of the soaring sky immortal kingdom, Typhon would unconditionally take out 100 bottles of Ironwood Divine Spring, let alone 10. Why did it sound like things weren't that simple from Ningyu's point of view? Ningyu smiled and didn't answer. Ningyu was very clear about the fact that there were too many people around. As long as Typhon didn't target him, there was no need for him to leak the news. After all, Typhon gave him 2 bottles of Ironwood Divine Spring. Although he gave him to Rong Hao, Typhon still treated him well. Since Ningyu didn't say anything, Rong Hao didn't ask too much. He could only turn around and look at Jia Bin, hoping to find some clues. Swish! When Rong Hao looked at Jia Bin, everyone in the number 2 Supreme cabin looked at Jia Bin. They all wanted to see if Jia Bin could break through the array and get 10 bottles of Ironwood Divine Spring. However, nothing was absolute. In the cabin, there were 2 people who didn't look at Jia Bin. One was Ningyu. The other was Lin Lang. Interesting. Lin Lang's lips curled up slightly and revealed a playful look. When Jia Bin and Zhou Heng said that he was defeated by half-step Heaven Monarch, he didn't take it seriously and thought that Jia Bin and Zhou Heng were exaggerating. However, when he saw Ningyu, he finally understood. Jia Bin and Zhou Heng didn't exaggerate. The strength of this half-step Heaven Monarch young man in front of him was indeed terrifying. Even he didn't have the absolute confidence to win. Sha. After thinking about it, Lin Lang walked straight towards Ningyu. Everyone in the number 2 Supreme Room had their eyes on Jia Bin. Only Typhon noticed Lin Lang's actions. This time, he invited over a dozen peak-stage Heaven Monarch martial artists, but only Lin Lang and the martial artist in the Supreme number 1 private room caught his attention. To be honest, he did not wish to see Lin Lang and Ningyu being too close. But right now, his main focus was still on checking the crystal ball. He had no time to care about Lin Lang and Ningyu, so he could only let them communicate. Let me introduce myself. My name is Lin Lang. Before long, Lin Lang stood in front of Ningyu and extended his hand. Nice to meet you. Ningyu also extended his hand. Whoosh! Just as he held Lin Lang's hand, Ningyu felt a force attacking his palm. There was no need to think about it. It must be Lin Lang testing him. Ningyu did not want to have a conflict with Lin Lang, but since Lin Lang took the initiative to provoke him, he had to respond. The immortal chi in his body surged and attacked Lin Lang's palm along his palm. Whoosh! Ningyu's counterattack made Lin Lang's heart tremble. He knew that Ningyu would counterattack, but he did not expect it to be so terrifying. In order not to be at a disadvantage, he had to increase his strength. However, when he increased his strength, Ningyu would also increase his strength. Damn it! Lin Lang cursed in his heart. A terrifying aura surged out from his body. He wanted to face Ningyu head-on and see who was the real expert. Crack! At this moment, the crystal ball on Jia Bin's side suddenly cracked. The cracking of the crystal ball meant that Jia Bin had cracked the formation inside. Clap, clap, clap. For a moment, the martial artists in the private room all stood up and applauded. Jia Bin has cracked the formation and is rewarded with 10 bottles of Ironwood Divine Spring. Typhon quietly put away the crystal ball fragments, then took out 5 bottles of Ironwood Divine Spring and said, "I'll give you 5 bottles first, and the other 5 will be given after the plan is completed. Thank you. Jiabin took the 5 bottles of Ironwood Divine Spring and thanked Typhone. He then looked at Ningyu with a provocative gaze. Idiot, Ningyu said indifferently. So silly and cute. He had been sold, but he was still happily counting money for others. You can see it too? Due to Jiabin breaking the array formation in the crystal ball, Ningyu and Lin Lang's first confrontation was announced to be evenly matched. At this moment, seeing the change in Ningyu's expression, Lin Lang said, "Are you interested in fighting for the Ironwood Divine Spring? If you dare to cause trouble, I can guarantee that you will be eliminated before you reach the number 1 private room." Ningyu said calmly. Boring. Lin Lang curled his lips and said, "I'm not going to cause trouble. I'm going to obtain the Ironwood Divine Spring legally." Russell. Lin Lang was a man of action. He pushed away Zhou Hang, who was preparing, and said to Typhone, "I want to try." Swoosh. The corner of Tai Feng's eyes revealed a cold expression. However, this cold expression was well concealed by him. Sure. With a flick of his wrist, Typhone threw an ordinary crystal ball to Lin Lang. Obviously, Typhone had done something to the others, but he did not do anything to Lin Lang. Even the crystal ball was extremely fragile and would shatter with a slight touch. Crack! Lin Lang only touched the crystal ball with his hand, and the crystal ball completely shattered. Swoosh! Swoosh! Typhone chose to treat everyone equally. He threw 5 bottles of Ironwood Divine Spring to Lin Lang. Thank you. Lin Lang waved the Ironwood Divine Spring in his hand, and then returned to Ningyu's side. How about it? Can you consider showing your skills? Anyway, Typhone will not do anything to you. Lin Lang shrugged and said to Ningyu, "He wants to use our strength to fight against Marvelous Mathematician and the others. On the other hand, we can use him to obtain a large amount of Ironwood Divine Spring. This is a win-win situation." That's true. Ningyu nodded in agreement. Apart from him and Lin Lang, no one else could see Tai Feng's intention. The array in the crystal ball did exist, but it was not the core. The real core was the essence blood that everyone dripped into the crystal ball. Typhone could use that essence blood to do a lot of things, including controlling the peak stage Heaven Monarch martial artists in the private room. While Ningyu and Lin Lang were talking in a low voice, Zhou Hang was the second to drip his essence blood on the crystal ball. After all, Lin Lang was just going through the motions and did not drip his essence blood on it. Therefore, Zhou Hang was the second, not the third. Crack! As if he did not want to waste time, the crystal ball shattered before Zhou Hang exerted much force. Here you go. Typhone flicked his wrist again and threw out 5 bottles of Ironwood Divine Spring. Crash! Many peak stage Heaven Monarch martial artists in the private room saw it and rushed forward to drip their essence blood on the crystal ball. Crack! 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 In just over 10 minutes, the new distribution method proposed by Typhone was completed. Including Lin Lang, most of the people in the private room, except for Ningyu and Rong Hao, got the Ironwood Divine Spring. Only 2 peak stage Heaven Monarch martial artists were invited out by Typhone. Let's go to the number 1 private room. Typhone did not waste any time. He came to the wall and wanted to use his hands to move the mural hanging on the wall. Wait, however, Chapter 2343. Swish. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice. The martial artist who spoke was Jiabin. At this moment, Jiabin stared at Ningyu valiantly like a cheapskate who had just won, and said gloomily, "Ningyu, we have all broken the formation in the crystal ball and obtained 5 bottles of Ironwood Divine Spring. You and the old man next to you have all broken the formation. Why didn't you and the old man next to you give it a try? Logically speaking, it has nothing to do with me whether you try or not. But we're going to Supreme Box 1 next. You didn't even pass the assessment. How dare you go to Supreme Box 1 with us?" Jiabin's words were reasonable. For a moment, all the martial artists in the box turned their eyes to Ningyu and Rong Hao. Since entering Supreme Box 2, except for Ningyu and Rong Hao, Basically, everyone had obtained Ironwood Divine Spring. They were qualified to enter Supreme Box 1. But how could Ning Yu and Rong Hao be qualified? I thought someone was powerful. It turns out that he's just a wax statue. Nice to look at, but useless. Zhou Hang curled his lips and said, Jia Bin, don't force them. With their strength, how can they break the formation in the crystal ball? Are you trying to kill them? Tai Feng did not intervene in Jia Bin and Zhou Hang's provocation. He even slowly retracted his right hand, which he had used to open the door to the number 1 room. Seeing this, everyone could see that Tai Feng also intended to let Ning Yu break the formation in the crystal ball. Rong Tianjun, you go and try first. Ning Yu did not make an exception. He said to Rong Hao, don't force yourself if you can't. Understood. Rong Hao seemed to have guessed Ning Yu's intention. He took a step forward and said in a deep voice, if you can break the formation, I can do the same. Do the same? What a joke. Jia Bin sneered and said, if I'm not wrong, you have just advanced to the peak of Lord of Heaven. Your overall strength should be similar to the 2 people who were just invited out. If you know what's good for you, get out of here. Otherwise, it will be revealed and make everyone look bad. Hee hee. Rong Hao smiled and did not continue to tangle with Jia Bin. He came out to break the array formation, not to bicker with Jia Bin. If they really wanted to bicker, Ning Yu would probably take action himself. Moreover, after observing for so long, Rong Hao could see some clues. Everyone dripped their blood onto the crystal ball. In the end, the blood was collected by Tai Feng. In this situation, there was only one possibility. Tai Feng's collection of their blood essence was of great use. Although he did not know what it was used for, Rong Hao was not a fool. He would not hand over the blood essence. Here, Tai Feng thought for a while before throwing out a black crystal ball. Pa! Rong Hao caught the crystal ball and his face darkened. Other people's crystal balls were basically transparent, but his crystal ball was not only opaque, but also black. Rong Hao did not immediately try to break the array formation within the water crystal ball. Instead, he shifted his gaze towards Ning Yu, wanting to see what advice Ning Yu could give him. Do your best and leave the rest to fate. Ning Yu's expression was indifferent. It was impossible to tell if he was happy or angry. Hearing Ning Yu's words, Rong Hao was stunned for a moment before slapping the crystal ball with his right hand. Ning Yu's meaning was very clear. As long as he did not drip his blood onto the crystal ball, he could try his best to break the array formation within the crystal ball. I would like to see if you can break the array formation. Jia Bin snorted coldly and said, trash will always be trash. I don't believe you can succeed. If he succeeds, I will twist my head off and let him use it as a chamber pot. Zhou Hang echoed, buzz, buzz, buzz. Things seemed to be developing in the direction that Jia Bin and Zhou Hang had expected. 5 minutes passed. The black crystal ball did not respond. 10 minutes passed. The black crystal ball did not respond either. Swoosh. In the end, the black crystal ball even broke free from Rong Hao's palm and returned to Tai Feng's hand. Ha ha ha. Jia Bin and Zhou Hang were stunned for a moment before they could not help but laugh wildly. I'm dying of laughter. I have already said that trash like you can't break the array formation. Looks like it's true. Did you offend Tai Feng somehow? Even Lin Lang felt that this change was a little unbelievable. After all, Ning Yu's strength was comparable to his. At this time, unless Tai Feng's head was rusty, he would not go against Rong Hao. But it had already happened. Rong Hao really did not break the crystal ball. And you, Jia Bin and Zhou Hang felt that they should follow up with another attack. They then pointed the spearhead at Ning Yu and said coldly, in the entire number 2 Supreme Room, you're the only one who hasn't tried to break the array formation. I'd like to see if you really have the ability to break the array formation. Tai Feng. Ning Yu ignored Jia Bin and Zhou Hang's mockery. He stood up and looked at Tai Feng. Give me the black crystal ball. This, hearing Ning Yu's words, a cold glint flashed across Tai Feng's eyes. But in the end, he still threw the black crystal ball to Ning Yu. Crack! Ning Yu did not use his hand to catch the crystal ball. Instead, he casually threw a punch at it. Wherever the fist aura passed, the crystal ball shattered on the spot. Swoosh! The moment the crystal ball shattered, a faint cold light suddenly swept out. "Where are you going?" Ningyu was quick to react. He stomped on the ground and grabbed the ball. "Rong Tianjun, here you go." With a flick of his wrist, Ningyu threw the cold glow in his palm to Rong Tianjun. Whoosh! Looking at the cold glow flying toward him, Rong Tianjun's expression changed slightly. He did not have time to think. He immediately opened up his mind and allowed the cold glow to enter his body. Boom! As soon as the black crystal ball entered his body, Rong Hao felt as if something that was missing in his body had been replenished. In an instant, Rong Hao's expression turned cold. He turned around and stared at Tai Feng, saying in a deep voice, "Why, Pa?" Before Rong Hao could finish his words, Ningyu patted his shoulder and said indifferently, "Leave this matter to me." While they were talking, Ningyu moved his feet and slowly came in front of Tai Feng. 10 portions. Stretching out his right hand, Ningyu did not beat around the bush and said directly, 10 portions of ironwood divine spring. Puffed. As soon as Ningyu said that, Jia Bin and Zhou Heng could not help but burst into laughter. 10 portions? What kind of person was he? He asked for 10 portions of ironwood divine spring the moment he opened his mouth. Noisy. Facing Jia Bin and Zhou Heng's mockery, Ningyu's expression turned cold, and he casually waved 2 cold glows. Bang! Bang! The cold glows were so fast that they almost reached Jia Bin and Zhou Heng in the blink of an eye. 2 crisp sounds could be heard, indicating that Jia Bin and Zhou Heng were hit by the cold glows and fell to the ground. Puffed. Blood spurted out of their mouths. Jia Bin and Zhou Heng's aura instantly dropped from the peak of the Heaven Lord realm to the early stage. Chapter 2344. Jia Bin and Zhou Heng had provoked Ningyu again and again. How could Ningyu let them go? He succeeded in one move. Ningyu chased after them. Bang! Bang! 2 consecutive punches landed on Jia Bin's and Zhou Heng's heads. In an instant, Jia Bin's and Zhou Heng's heads exploded. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Hiss! Seeing Jia Bin's and Zhou Heng's tragic deaths, everyone in Supreme Room 2 gasped. Jia Bin and Zhou Heng's strength might not be among the top few in the room, but it was enough for them to be in the middle. With such strength, they were easily killed by Ningyu. One could imagine, if it were them, their ending would not be much different. Russell. After killing Jia Bin and Zhou Heng, Ningyu squatted beside them and took the ironwood divine spring. Both of them had passed Tai Feng's test, and each of them had 5 bottles of ironwood divine spring. Now that they were killed, the ironwood divine spring naturally belonged to Ningyu. After taking the ironwood divine spring, Ningyu turned to look at Tai Feng and said, 10. Tai Feng's face turned ugly. He had thought that his scheme against Rong Hao would not be discovered. Who would have thought? Ningyu was so smart that he could see the abnormality of the black crystal ball. Now that Ningyu wanted 10 bottles of ironwood divine spring, it put him in a difficult position. In fact, he could take out 10 complete bottles of ironwood divine spring, but if he did that, he would not be able to explain to Tai Muyu when he entered Supreme Room 1. After all, these ironwood divine spring were only with him for safekeeping. He was only able to distribute a small portion of it. The rest of the distribution was in the hands of the ironwood fish. How about one? After thinking about it, Tai Feng took out a complete bottle of ironwood divine spring and said to Ningyu, I can give you 1 bottle of ironwood divine spring and pretend that nothing happened. 10. Ningyu said firmly. 3 portions at most. Tai Feng gritted his teeth and said in a deep voice, I only have 3 portions of ironwood divine spring left. I don't have any more. Let's go. Ningyu did not want to talk nonsense with Tai Feng. He glanced at Rong Hao and walked out of the box. All right, 10 servings it is. Seeing that Ningyu wanted to leave, Tai Feng couldn't care less. With a flick of his wrist, he tossed a space ring to Ningyu. Obviously, the ring contained 10 complete portions of ironwood divine spring. Ha! Catching the ring, Ningyu used his perception to look at it and then put it into his bosom. With 10 complete sets of ironwood divine spring, Ningyu was confident that he could break through to the Heaven Monarch realm. For an ordinary martial artist, perhaps one portion, or even half a portion, could raise one's cultivation by a level. For example, Ronghao had only used 3 bottles, which was 3/10 of the Ironwood Divine Spring, to advance from the late-stage Heaven Monarch realm to the peak stage of Heaven Monarch realm. Although Ronghao was not far from the peak stage of the Heaven Monarch realm, it was enough to show how terrifying the Ironwood Divine Spring was. "Can we go now?" Tai Feng gritted his teeth and said, "No problem." Ningyu shrugged his shoulders. At first, Ningyu did not feel that there was anything special about Tai Feng. But now, Ningyu finally understood. Tai Feng must be plotting something against him. Otherwise, it was impossible to give him 10 portions of Ironwood Divine Spring. What was the concept of 10 portions? It was a known fact that everyone else in the box only took half of the Ironwood Divine Spring. He asked for 10 portions, and Tai Feng did not refuse. From this point, Jiang Yi could see that Tai Feng must be plotting something against him. Even if he knew, Ningyu did not choose to make it public. This was the Pleasant Arrival restaurant, Tai Feng's main battlefield. If he left without a clear understanding of the situation, he might become the target of everyone. After all, there would always be brave men with great rewards. If Tai Feng used the Ironwood Divine Spring to tempt others, it would be hard for him to leave. Creak. While Ningyu was thinking, Tai Feng had already opened the passage to Supreme No. 1 box. Swoosh. Then, everyone entered in a line. "Let's go." Ningyu did not hesitate and entered Supreme No. 1 box with Ronghao. Swoosh. As soon as they entered Supreme No. 1 box, they were stared at. After adapting to the environment, Ningyu looked around. At this time, he was in a closed room. Although it was said to be closed, it was actually very spacious. It was the size of dozens of Supreme No. 2 boxes. Although the room was spacious, there were more than a dozen martial artists gathered around an altar. Half-step Immortal King. Ningyu's eyes fell on the old man above the altar. The old man's cultivation had reached the horrifying half-step Immortal King realm. Apart from the old man, the rest of the martial artists were all at the peak Heavenly Lord realm. Swoosh! Seeing Ningyu and the others coming in, the old man jumped down from the altar. "Wait a moment." The old man gave a few instructions and then walked straight to Tai Feng. Seeing the old man walking towards him, Tai Feng quickly took out a space ring and handed it to the old man. Then he said, "Father, the Ironwood Divine Spring is all here." "Well done." The old man was Tai Muyu. After glancing at Ningyu and Lin Lang, Tai Muyu began to check the space ring. "Huh?" Halfway through the check, Tai Muyu frowned slightly. "What's going on?" Tai Muyu's face was extremely cold. At this time, no matter how stupid he was, he knew that the space ring was missing 10 portions of Ironwood Divine Spring. Tai Feng did not say anything, but looked at Ningyu involuntarily. "Got it. Let them drink the Ironwood Divine Spring now." Tai Muyu did not care anymore and returned to the altar. Cough, cough. Tai Feng coughed twice and then said to Ningyu and Lin Lang, "With my father here, you can drink the Ironwood Divine Spring to cultivate." The martial artists chosen by Tai Feng were all at the peak of the Lord of Heaven. They were not fools. Their original intention was to use the Ironwood Divine Spring to break through to the half-step Immortal King realm. Even if they could not break through to the half-step Immortal King realm, they wanted to double their strength. Now that Tai Feng asked them to drink the Ironwood Divine Spring, how could they be willing? "Tai Feng, I need an explanation." A martial artist at the peak of the Lord of Heaven in blue took a step forward and said coldly, "You said before that we can handle the Ironwood Divine Spring by ourselves. Why are you forcing us to swallow it now? Why do you care so much?" Tai Feng waved his hand impatiently and said, "You have 2 choices now. First, swallow the Ironwood Divine Spring to cultivate. Second, get lost." "Humph. Just get lost. What's the big deal?" The blue-clothed Lord of Heaven snorted and then turned to leave without hesitation. Swish! As soon as the blue-clothed Lord of Heaven turned around, Tai Feng immediately dashed out and appeared in front of him in the blink of an eye. He clenched his right fist and suddenly punched out. Bang! there was a muffled sound. The blue-clothed Lord of Heaven flew straight toward the altar like a kite with a broken string. Plop! Chapter 2345. Hiss! All of a sudden, aside from Typhone and the martial artists who were already present, even Ningyu and Lin Lang could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. At this point, they finally figured out the situation. It was not so easy to get the Ironwood Divine Spring. Gulp. Under such a strong deterrent, the rest of the martial artists at the peak of the Lord of Heaven threw the Ironwood Divine Spring into their mouths. What should we do? Seeing that everyone began to swallow the Ironwood Divine Spring, Ronghao looked at Ningyu and said in a low voice, "How about swallow?" Ningyu interrupted Ronghao and handed him a portion of Ironwood Divine Spring, saying, "Don't worry about other things. Anyway, your task is to improve your strength." Understood. Ronghao was stunned at first. Then he took the Ironwood Divine Spring and poured it into his mouth. As for Ningyu, he found an empty space and sat down cross-legged. He took out a portion of Ironwood Divine Spring and began to swallow it for cultivation. Finally, the fox's tail is revealed. Lin Lang looked extremely serious. In fact, he had guessed a certain possibility at the beginning. After all, Typhone took out so much Ironwood Divine Spring at once. It was certainly not without purpose. But he didn't expect that the final result would be like this. Tai Muyu, who was at the half-step Lord of Heaven realm, was afraid that all the martial artists present would become his foil, because Tai Muyu's purpose was to heal his internal injuries and improve his strength to the peak of the half-step Immortal King. Tai Muyu's body was no longer at its peak due to years of fighting. His body was severely injured. Moreover, in addition to his body, his soul power was also devastated. This time, he spent a lot of money to invite so many martial artists at the peak of the Lord of Heaven realm. On the one hand, it was indeed to fight against the marvelous mathematician and the others. On the other hand, it was to find the right person for him to possess. Humph. If I want to succeed, I have to see if someone agrees or not. Lin Lang snorted. Then, like Ningyu, he sat down cross-legged and began to swallow the Ironwood Divine Spring to cultivate. Tick, tick. As time went on, all kinds of cultivation methods were displayed in the huge box of the Supreme Number 1. Muffled bangs rang out incessantly. Every time there was a muffled sound, it meant that a cultivator had completely absorbed the Ironwood Divine Spring, and their strength had increased. In the entire private room, apart from Ningyu, Ronghao, and Lin Lang, the rest of the martial artists at the peak of the Heaven Monarch realm only had 5 bottles of Ironwood Divine Spring. 5 bottles were equivalent to half a portion. For an ordinary martial artist, this much Ironwood Divine Spring might be able to raise their cultivation by 1 level. However, for these geniuses who were already at the peak of the Heaven Monarch realm, it was basically impossible for them to improve their cultivation. When they swallowed the Ironwood Divine Spring, it was more of an improvement in their strength. Bang! About half an hour later, a muffled sound rang out from Ronghao's sea of consciousness. It meant that Ronghao had completely devoured the Ironwood Divine Fountain. Damn it! Although Typhone was on the other side, his attention was always on Ronghao, Ningyu, and Lin Lang. Typhone did not pay much attention to the others. After all, he had already tampered with the Ironwood Divine Spring that he had given to those people. As for the Ironwood Divine Spring that he had given to Ningyu and Lin Lang, even if he had tampered with it, it was very likely that he would be discovered. His current idea was very simple. That was, Ningyu and Lin Lang would not discover the problem with the Ironwood Divine Spring, so that they could swallow it completely. However, although the ideal was very rich, the reality was very harsh. With the strength of Ningyu and Lin Lang alone, they might be able to escape from the hands of a half-step to Immortal King. Among them, Ningyu might even be able to fight against a half-step to Immortal King with the help of the round plate, the white bead, and the energy in his sea of consciousness. Boom! Another half an hour later, Ningyu suddenly opened his eyes, and there was a burst of light in his eyes. With a total of 9 portions of Ironwood Divine Spring, plus the energy in his sea of consciousness and the energy in the white bead, Ningyu's cultivation had reached the peak of a half-step to Heavenly Lord. Even a little bit of energy could trigger the tribulation of Heavenly Lord. Compression. This situation was extremely dangerous. Therefore, Ningyu decided to take the risk and transfer the energy in the white bead and the ironwood divine spring into his sea of consciousness. Then, he used Ning Lu's blood essence to completely seal it. Swish! Ningyu was not an indecisive person. He hurriedly contacted Ning Lu and obtained a lot of blood essence from him. The blood essence entered his sea of consciousness and, together with the round plate, forcibly sealed the excess energy. Boom! As soon as Ningyu sealed the energy, Lin Lang, who was on the other side, suddenly opened his eyes and a gust of aura rushed into the sky. Not simple. Feeling the aura emanating from Lin Lang, Ningyu's face became extremely serious. He was not a half-step to a mortal king, but stronger than one. The meaning was very simple. Although Lin Lang's cultivation had not reached the half-step to a mortal king, the energy in his body had broken through the limit and reached the level of an ordinary half-step to a mortal king. Very good. No one knew if he had been paying attention to the situation here, but when Ningyu and Lin Lang finished cultivating, Taimu nodded slightly and said, "All of you, come here. Inject the energy in your bodies into the altar." Many martial artists at the peak of the Lord of Heaven hesitated. They had come here to fight against the marvelous mathematician and the others, not to listen to Tai Muyu's orders. Don't worry, this is part of the fight against the marvelous mathematician and the others. Tai Feng smiled and said, "Inject your energy into the altar first, and then I will give you a portion of the ironwood divine spring. Remember, a complete portion of the ironwood divine spring." Okay. Tai Feng's temptation played a big role. The martial artists at the peak of the Lord of Heaven moved to the side of the altar and injected all their energy into it. "The three of you, don't just stand there. Hurry up and come over." Tai Feng looked at Ningyu and Lin Lang and said, "As long as you inject your energy into the altar, I will compensate you with double the amount of the ironwood divine spring." "There's no need for that." Ningyu got up and tidied up his clothes. He said lightly, "We will not get involved in your business for the time being." "That's right, we will not get involved." Lin Lang knew what Ningyu meant, so he agreed. At this time, Ningyu needed to find allies, and so did Lin Lang. Therefore, the two sides hit it off and formed a temporary alliance. "I am afraid it is not up to you." Tai Feng's face became extremely cold, and he said in a deep voice, "According to our agreement, you must obey unconditionally and inject your energy into the altar. Otherwise, what awaits you is death." Boom! As soon as the word death fell, a terrifying aura suddenly emitted from Tai Feng's body and pressed down on Ningyu and Lin Lang. Pseudo half-step to a mortal king. Chapter 2346. Although Tai Muyu was a half-step immortal king, his body was unwell and he was being held up by the altar. Tai Feng was different. He could attack without any worries. Originally, Ningyu and Lin Lang thought that Tai Feng was only at the peak of the Lord of Heaven and his strength would not be that strong. However, the current situation was far beyond their expectations. Tai Feng, who was a half-step immortal king, was enough to attract their attention. However, that was all. Even if Tai Muyu was not injured, Ningyu would not be afraid, because his overall strength was entirely capable of going against a half-step immortal king realm expert. "I will give you one last chance." Tai Feng stared coldly at Ningyu and Lin Lang and shouted, "Surrender or die." Boom! While speaking, Tai Feng exerted all the aura in his body and crazily pressed down on Ningyu and Lin Lang. Tai Feng did not want to fall out with Ningyu and Lin Lang. Whether it was Ningyu or Lin Lang, they were extremely strong. Tai Feng's original intention was to control Lin Lang and Ningyu, making them the vanguard to charge and break through enemy lines. "Don't waste your energy," Lin Lang shrugged and said indifferently, We all understand the principle of taking someone's money to eliminate disaster. But our task is to deal with marvelous mathematician and the others, not to stay here and help your father recover. As his voice fell, Lin Lang glanced at the Tai Muyu on the altar. Swish! Lin Lang's action made Tai Feng's face extremely cold. He did not expect that Lin Lang could see some clues. Indeed, he spent the Ironwood Divine Spring to invite these people here for two main tasks. One was to fight against marvelous mathematician and the other was to help Tai Muyu recover. A few of you come here. Tai Feng took a deep breath and said to the altar, "Whoever can take down one of them, I will reward him with a portion of Ironwood Divine Spring." Whoosh! Brave men are bound to be inspired by generous rewards. Hearing that Tai Feng was willing to take out an entire portion of the Ironwood Divine Spring, several peak stage Heaven Monarch realm martial artists at the edge of the altar instantly left the altar and rushed towards Ningyu. These martial artists at the peak of the Heaven Monarch realm were not fools. In their opinion, both Rong Hao and Lin Lang were peak stage Heaven Monarchs. Ningyu was the only one who was only a half-step Lord of Heaven. When picking a persimmon, one had to pick the soft one. Therefore, they all rushed forward, and their target was Ningyu. Humph! A sin committed by heaven can be forgiven, but a sin committed by oneself cannot be forgiven. Seeing so many heavenly lords rushing towards him, Ningyu snorted coldly. He injected the immortal chi in his body into his fist and punched out. Bang, bang, bang. Ningyu's attack speed was very fast, and he did not hold back at all. Every time he attacked, a Heaven Monarch would be killed. In just a few seconds, 5 peak stage Heaven Monarch realm experts who rushed at him had all died tragically. Hiss! Ningyu's domineering performance caused the other cultivators who wanted to make a move to suck in a breath of cold air. They wanted to choose Ningyu, but now they all changed their target to Lin Lang. Puff, puff, puff. But this time, they were disappointed again. Lin Lang took out a silver-white flying sword and waved it repeatedly. Every time the flying sword waved, a Heaven Monarch would be killed. For a moment, the Heaven Monarchs at the altar were completely dumbfounded. They wanted to attack Ningyu, but they found that Ningyu was very strong. When they set their target on Lin Lang, they found that Lin Lang was even more terrifying than Ningyu. Were they going to target Rong Hao? If Rong Hao was also strong, wouldn't they be in trouble? As the saying went, there must be a brave man under a high reward. However, the whole Ironwood Divine Spring that Tai Feng took out was not a high reward. If Tai Feng was willing to take out 10 Ironwood Divine Springs, they might continue to attack. But 1 Ironwood Divine Spring, they had to consider it. Damn it! 8 peak stage Heaven Monarchs died one after another, and Tai Feng couldn't help but curse. But the tragic deaths of these martial artists were not completely useless. At least, it gave Tai Feng a reference and allowed him to roughly guess the strength of Ningyu and Lin Lang. At the same time, he felt very lucky that he didn't go out to fight against 2 people. It should be known, with the strength of Lin Lang and Ningyu, he didn't have the confidence to win even if it was a one-on-one fight, let alone against 2 people. If I knew this, I wouldn't have given them so much Ironwood Divine Spring. Tai Feng looked gloomy and couldn't help but feel a little regretful. When he met Ningyu and Lin Lang for the first time, they weren't as strong as they were now. The improvement of Ningyu and Lin Lang's strength completely depended on the Ironwood Divine Spring that he took out. Nurturing a tiger will bring disaster. At this moment, Tai Feng had such a thought. Since coercion didn't work, Tai Feng decided to lure them with benefits. Swish! With a shake of his wrist, he took out 2 interspatial rings from his bosom. Shaking them, he said to Ningyu and Lin Lang, "There are 100 portions of Ironwood Divine Spring in here. As long as you inject your energy into the altar, I will give it to you unconditionally." I know you won't believe me. Tai Feng seemed to have guessed what Ningyu and Lin Lang were thinking. He continued, "I can make a heavenly oath and even sign a life and death contract." Hearing the life and death contract, Ningyu and Lin Lang were moved. A life and death contract could not be signed carelessly. Previously in Kuan Su City, the Su family's ancestor was easily killed by Ningyu because he had signed a life-and-death contract. Now that Tai Feng wanted to sign a life-and-death contract, how could Ningyu not be surprised? Because once Tai Feng signed the life-and-death contract, he would have to give them 100 portions of Ironwood Divine Spring. What are you still thinking about? Tai Feng said, I can put the Ironwood Divine Spring here first. After you inject your energy into the altar, you can come and get it yourself. That's a good choice. Ningyu looked at Lin Lang and said, why don't we think about it? Yes, we should think about it. Lin Lang nodded. Then, Lin Lang and Ningyu huddled together and whispered to each other. What the hell? Since Lin Lang and Ningyu had set up a soundproof formation, Tai Feng could not hear what they were talking about. After a while, Ningyu seemed to have come to an agreement with Lin Lang, and he said in a clear voice, bring 50 portions of Ironwood Divine Spring over first, and only then will we pour the energy within our bodies into the sacrificial altar. Otherwise, once the energy within our bodies is exhausted, wouldn't we be waiting to be slaughtered? Lambs? Sure. This was out of Ningyu and Lin Lang's expectations. Tai Feng did not refuse. He flicked his wrist and threw out the interspatial ring containing the Ironwood Divine Spring. Chi! The interspatial ring's speed was very fast, and the friction with the air made a chi-chi sound. In an instant, the interspatial ring arrived in front of Ningyu and Lin Lang. Be careful. At this moment, Ningyu suddenly realized that a cold light suddenly shot out from the interspatial ring and quickly attacked him. Chapter 23:47. However, at this moment, Ningyu wanted to retreat, but it was obviously too late. Whoosh! Several cold lights shot out from the interspatial ring. In an instant, the cold lights intertwined and wrapped Ningyu and Rong Hao. Even Lin Lang, who was at the side, was unable to escape the demonic claws and was surrounded by several cold lights. Ha ha ha! Seeing Ningyu and Lin Lang being surrounded by the cold lights, Tai Feng could not help but laugh. In order to trap Ningyu and Lin Lang, he did not hesitate to use the Ironwood Divine Spring as bait. Originally, he thought that there was a possibility of failure, but when he saw Ningyu and Lin Lang being trapped with his own eyes, the stone in his heart was finally put down. Ningyu, Lin Lang, I gave you a chance, but you did not know how to cherish it. Since that's the case, I can only plant a seal in your bodies so that you have no choice but to listen to my orders. Tai Feng's lips curled up as he said, You too. Don't worry, I will only control your bodies and will not erase your consciousness. Is that so? Just as Tai Feng finished his words, an indifferent voice rang in his ears. Whoosh! Following the voice, he saw Ningyu playing with an interspatial ring as he said calmly, If you have the ability to erase my consciousness, I will naturally not mind. Ningyu's action caused Tai Feng to turn pale with fright. He quickly activated the seal on the interspatial ring and wanted to take it back. However, the seal on the interspatial ring had already been erased by Ningyu. It was too late for Tai Feng to take back the interspatial ring. Feeling that he had lost control of the interspatial ring, Tai Feng's pupils shrank and he even stuttered. Although there were not 100 sets of Ironwood Divine Spring in the interspatial ring, there were at least 20 sets. Other than the Ironwood Divine Spring that he had given to Tai Muyu, he only had 20 sets. Now that so much of the Ironwood Divine Spring had been obtained by Ningyu, Tai Feng felt like crying. Hand over the Ironwood Divine Spring. Taking a deep breath, Tai Feng forced himself to calm down. Although the Ironwood Divine Spring was obtained by Ningyu, Ningyu was also trapped in the array formation at the same time. The cold light array was extremely powerful. Even a pseudo-half-step immortal king like him might not be able to escape if he was trapped inside. If I hand it over just because you ask me to, wouldn't I lose face? Ningyu shrugged his shoulders, then threw 9 portions to Lin Lang and 1 to Rong Hao. He said, Everyone who sees this has a share. I can't let you return empty-handed. Thank you. After receiving the Ironwood Divine Spring, Lin Lang thanked Ningyu. After all, the Ironwood Divine Spring was seized by Ningyu. Even if Ningyu did not hand over the Ironwood Divine Spring to him, he had nothing to say. I'm going to die of anger. I'm going to die of anger. Typhon was so angry that his nose was crooked. His original intention was to use the cold light array to control Ningyu and Linlang. But now, even his 20 portions of Ironwood Divine Spring had been divided up. Rise! The furious Typhon immediately activated the cold light array, trying to trap Ningyu and Linlang inside. Chi! 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 The cold light array was activated, and countless rays of cold light covered the sky and attacked Ningyu and Linlang. Withdraw! However, Ningyu's face showed no signs of fear. He took out the red demon sword and controlled it to emit a terrifying devouring power. In an instant, the cold light that was attacking him was completely devoured. Swoosh! On the other side, Linlang also used his silver-white flying sword to devour the cold light that was attacking him. You guys, seeing the cold light being devoured by Ningyu and Linlang, Typhon trembled all over. The plan had completely failed. Trash! Ironwood Fish saw everything that was happening on this side. If it was not for the fact that it was inconvenient for him to attack, he would have killed Typhon as well. Father! Typhon glared at Ningyu and Linlang, then leaped up and flew to the edge of the altar. You take charge of the altar for me. I will take care of them. Tai Muyu glared at Typhon, then slammed the altar with both hands and shot out. Swoosh! Tai Muyu was a real half-step immortal king. Although his body was unwell, his strength was greatly affected. His overall strength was still much stronger than Typhon's. In a one-on-one fight, even two Typhons were not his match. You step back first. Seeing that Tai Muyu had personally attacked, Ningyu's face became extremely solemn. He pulled Ronghao behind him and waved the red demon sword in his hand. Whoosh! Several rays of sword light attacked Tai Muyu. Child's play. Looking at the sword light attacking him, Tai Muyu opened his mouth and swallowed the sword light into his stomach under the horrified eyes of Ningyu and the others. This change was obviously out of Ningyu's expectation. Ningyu thought that he could rely on the sword light to slightly block Tai Muyu's steps. Who would have thought that it would be defeated in an instant? Let's attack together. Glancing at Linlang, Ningyu rose from the ground. He did not hesitate to mobilize the energy in his sea of consciousness, gathered it on his fist, and punched out with a backhand. As for Linlang, he was not idle either. He constantly waved the silver-white flying sword, slashing out several rays of sword light. The only difference between him and Ningyu was that Ningyu was wholeheartedly fighting against Tai Muyu. While Linlang was fighting against Tai Muyu, his eyes involuntarily looked at the entrance of the number 1 private room. Although Linlang's movements were hidden, Ronghao saw it. Be careful of the entrance to the private room. Ronghao did not think much, and quickly used his unique voice transmission secret technique to inform Ningyu of the news. Crack! However, as soon as Ronghao informed Ningyu, the door of the number 1 private room suddenly exploded. Whoosh! 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 The private room exploded, and several figures entered in a line. Oh no! Seeing the sudden influx of martial artists, Ronghao's expression changed dramatically. The figures at the front were none other than marvelous mathematician, Thunder Elixir King, and Du Shibing. With the 3 of them leading the way, there were dozens of experts behind them. However, the cultivation of these experts was not at the peak of Lord Heaven, but the early stage Lord Heaven. Although their cultivation was only at the mid-stage Lord Heaven, Ronghao did not dare to be careless, because each of these people had a badge on their shoulders. On the badge, there were 2 big golden words. Tianlan. Obviously, they were from Tianlan Immortal Kingdom. Oh no! Tai Muyu was equally astonished. He did not have the time to fight against Ningyu. He quickly returned to the altar and gave an order to Typhon. Do your best to hold them off for half an hour. Understood. Typhon's expression was extremely unpleasant. Under normal circumstances, he could easily hold off Marvelous Mathematician and the others for 10 hours. let alone half an hour. But now, half an hour was extremely difficult for him. There was no other reason. Both marvelous mathematician and Thunder Elixir King had the same cultivation as him, pseudo-immortal king realm. Chapter 2348. Typhon remembered it clearly. Previously, both the godly diviner and the Thunder Elixir King were at the peak of the heavenly Lord realm. But now, he was very surprised that both the godly diviner and the Thunder Elixir King had become half-step immortal kings. But what truly shocked Typhon was not this, but Du Shibing's cultivation. Half-step immortal king. What did half-step immortal king mean? His father, Tai Muyu, had cultivated for many years before reaching half-step immortal king. What ability did Du Shibing possess to actually charge into the half-step immortal king realm in such a short period of time? Could it be he had already consumed an immortal king pill? The more Typhon thought about it, the more he felt it was possible. An immortal king pill was an immortal king level pill with extremely potent medicinal effects. If it was swallowed by some extremely talented martial artists, there is a great possibility that they could directly skip the half-step immortal king realm from the peak of the heaven monarch realm and advance to the real immortal king realm. Rong Hao, go into the red devil sword first. Ningyu didn't care about the cultivation of Du Shibing and the others. He turned to Rong Hao and said, although Rong Hao had reached the peak of the heavenly lord realm, his overall strength wasn't particularly strong. He could deal with ordinary martial artists, but against godly diviner and the others, not only would he be useless, he might even be a burden. Letting him enter the storage ring was the best choice. Swish! Rong Hao knew what he was capable of. He immediately dove into his storage ring and began to lie dormant there, and then, how about it? Do you want to consider joining forces? Lin Lang's voice rang in Ningyu's ears as soon as Rong Hao entered the storage ring. What do you think? Ningyu rolled his eyes. He couldn't handle the current situation by himself. Three forces, Typhon and Tai Muyu, had many peak of the heavenly lord realm fighters. Godly diviner and Du Shibing had many martial artists from the endless sky, celestial kingdom. He and Lin Lang could barely be considered a force. The only thing Ningyu wasn't sure about was how strong Lin Lang's combat strength was. Was he between half-step immortal king and half-step immortal king? Or was he strong enough to fight half-step immortal king? Let's wait and see. Lin Lang smiled and said, the real boss hasn't appeared yet. Boss? Ningyu was slightly stunned and confused. How could there be any big shots? Could it be that Du Shibing, who was at the half-step immortal king realm, couldn't be considered as a big shot? Let's wait and see. Lin Lang didn't answer Ningyu's question. Instead, he said indifferently, it's not like Typhon doesn't have a way to deal with Du Shibing and the others. Rumble, as if to verify the accuracy of Lin Lang's words. With a flick of Typhon's wrist, a purple pouch appeared in his hand. Celestial King-level magic treasure, immortal trapping pouch. In terms of grade, the immortal trapping cloth bag's grade was even higher than Ningyu's disc. It had reached the terrifying peak of the intermediate immortal king stage. You should know, Ningyu's sky-reaching disc was merely a mid-stage immortal king's magic treasure. Typhon, so many years have passed. I didn't expect you to still have the immortal trapping cloth bag. Du Shibing took a step forward and stared at Typhon. He said in a deep voice, you should know why I'm here today. Hand over the immortal trapping cloth bag and the energy in the altar to me. Maybe I'll be happy and let you go. Or else. Speaking of this, Du Shibing paused for a moment. Then, a terrifying aura suddenly emanated from his body and crazily pressed down on Typhon. Come out. Feeling the terrifying aura emanating from Du Shibing's body, Typhon shouted in a low voice. Whoosh! As Typhon's words fell, for figures dashed over from afar. The cultivation of these four martial artists were all at the peak of the Lord Heaven realm. They were only one step away from the pseudo-immortal king stage. Is this Typhon's trump card? Ningyu's face was slightly serious. for martial artists at the peak of the Lord Heaven realm were enough to attract his attention. Because as long as these 4 martial artists were willing, they could advance to the pseudo-immortal king stage at any time. Rumble. As soon as the 4 martial artists landed next to Typhon, their aura increased again. Whoosh, 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 for auras soared into the sky. At this moment, their cultivation had advanced from the peak of the Lord Heaven realm to the pseudo-immortal king stage. Now, including him, there were 5 pseudo-immortal king stage experts on Typhon's side. As for Du Shibing's side, there were only the marvelous mathematician and the Thunderpellet King. Of course, if Du Shibing, who was at the pseudo-immortal king stage, was included, the situation was different. Typhon, you should know very well that if I make a move, all of you will die. Du Shibing's expression was still the same. He did not panic because of the appearance of the 4 pseudo-immortal kings. The corner of his mouth curled up slightly, and he said indifferently, "You will never be able to bridge the gap between pseudo-immortal kings and pseudo-immortal kings." The word bridge was uttered. Du Shibing rose from the ground, turned into a shadow, and dashed out. Du Shibing's speed was very fast. In the blink of an eye, he was next to Typhon. All of you attacked. Typhon obviously did not want to face Du Shibing head-on. He grabbed the 2 pseudo-half-step immortal kings and threw them towards Du Shibing. Bang! Bang! As Du Shibing said, the gap between pseudo-immortal kings and pseudo-immortal kings was very big, so big that it was difficult to bridge. He casually threw out 2 punches. The 2 pseudo-half-step immortal kings who attacked him were sent flying and fell heavily on the ground. Damn it! Such a change made Typhon's face pale. He knew that Du Shibing was powerful, but he did not expect that he was powerful to this level. 2 pseudo-half-step immortal kings were actually not his match. One could imagine, even if he came forward, it would be difficult for him to be his opponent. His eyes turned. Typhon said to Ningyu and Ningyu in a deep voice, "Ningyu, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. As long as you kill Du Shibing for me, the previous enmity will be written off. It's not good for us to intervene in the fight between you for the time being." Ningyu waved his hand and said, Ningyu is not a hothead. Even if he used all his trump cards and might be able to block Du Shibing's attack, it was extremely stupid to fight with Du Shibing at this time. Damn it! Hearing Ningyu's refusal, Typhon could not help but curse. The task given to him by Tai Mu Yu was to resist Du Shibing for about half an hour. With Du Shibing's powerful strength, it would be very difficult to resist for 10 minutes, let alone half an hour. You are Ningyu? However, Ningyu did not want to intervene, but Du Shibing took the initiative to come to him. He stared at Ningyu and said, "Half-step Heavenly Lord Realm Cultivation, I really don't know how Qian Linkong was killed by you. How about this? You come over and kowtow to me a few times, then release your mind to let me control it. I can spare your life. Are you sure you were talking to me?" Chapter 2349. Humph. Du Shibing snorted coldly. "Don't be so shameless. I don't even need to use my full strength to deal with trash like you. I can easily kill you." Hee hee. Ningyu smiled, but did not answer Du Shibing. "Don't you know how to bluff? Bluffing doesn't cost anything anyway. Say as much as you can." Marvelous diviner. Du Shibing was so angry that his nose was crooked. This was intolerable. He turned to Marvelous Diviner and said, "Go and capture him, dead or alive." "Yes." Marvelous Diviner nodded. Previously on the streets of Violet City, he knew that he was no match for Ningyu, so he immediately returned to report to Du Shibing. But now, he had devoured 1/5 of the Immortal King elixirs, and his cultivation had already advanced to the pseudo-half-step Immortal King realm. At this time, he thought he could easily win against Ningyu. Swoosh! Master God Diviner's figure flickered as he charged toward Ningyu. "Do you need my help?" Lin Lang asked when he saw Marvelous Diviner charging toward Ningyu. "Yes." Ningyu nodded. "I'm no match for Marvelous Diviner, so I hope you can help me." "Air." Lin Lang did not expect Ningyu to say that, and he felt a little awkward. He was just being polite. He did not want to reveal his strength. I've been suffering from cold recently, so you should go and deal with Marvelous Diviner. Lin Lang quickly found a way out of this embarrassing situation. You're the best. Ningyu gave him a thumbs up, and then he slashed at Marvelous Diviner with the red demon sword. Whoosh! In a split second, several sword rays shot out, covering the sky and earth, slashing toward Marvelous Diviner. Child's play. Marvelous Diviner did not seem to care about the sword rays. He clenched his fists and opened a path in front of him. Chi, chi, chi. The sword rays that Ningyu slashed out were shattered by Marvelous Diviner's fists. As for Marvelous Diviner, his path was unimpeded, and he rushed to the front of Ningyu. In your next life, Master God Diviner said viciously, there are some things that look behind you. Ningyu rolled his eyes and pointed behind Master God Diviner. Trying to play tricks? Master God Diviner's lips curled up into a sinister smile. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. You want to take advantage of the moment I turn around to attack me? Ha. I have to say, you're very naive. I can believe it, but I absolutely won't. Puffed. However, before Master God Diviner could finish his sentence, he suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood. At this critical moment, Master God Diviner hurriedly turned around. Poo-pee-you-pee-you-pee-you. However, it was already too late for Master God Diviner to turn around. As soon as he turned around, he saw several sword rays speeding towards his head. Impossible, Master God Diviner exclaimed. He had already destroyed all the sword lights. Why did the sword gleams recombine? Nothing is impossible. Ningyu said calmly, I've already warned you, but you didn't know how to cherish it. Don't blame me. While they were talking, Ningyu held the red demon sword and stabbed it at Master God Diviner's heart. Puffed. With his heart pierced, Master God Diviner did not even have time to say anything before his body fell backward. At that moment, Master God Diviner, who was half a step to the Immortal King realm, was killed. Whoosh! The sudden death of Master God Diviner caused everyone in the number 1 booth to turn pale, except for Du Shibing and the Thunder Pellet King. Even Tai Feng was shocked. They could not have imagined it. Even someone as powerful as Master God Diviner was killed by Ningyu with ease. Was a half-step to the Heavenly Lord Realm Martial Artist really that powerful? Thunder Pellet King. Du Shibing's expression was extremely cold. He looked at the Thunder Pellet King and said in a deep voice, Bring a few men with you and bring Ningyu to me. Understood. The Thunder Pellet King nodded heavily. In fact, if Ningyu could kill Master God Diviner, he could also kill him. However, he had to obey Du Shibing's request. Hence, he brought more than 10 mid-stage Heavenly Monarch Realm experts from the Endless Sky, Immortal Empire, and rushed towards Ningyu. Devour. Ningyu did not turn around to look at the Thunder Pellet King and the others. After killing Master God Diviner, he squatted down and placed his palm on Master God Diviner's head. Puffed. It only took 3 seconds. Master God Diviner's body withered, leaving only a piece of human skin. Rumble. As soon as Ningyu devoured Master God Diviner's human skin, Lin Lang and the Thunder Pellet King began a fight. In fact, Lin Lang did not plan to help Ningyu in the beginning. After all, the real battle had not begun. It was unwise to waste energy now. However, when he saw Ningyu devouring Master God Diviner, he changed his mind and decided to kill the Thunder Pellet King. Both Master God Diviner and the Thunder Pellet King were pseudo-half-step immortal kings. The energy in their bodies, treasures, and pills were countless. Instead of letting Ningyu take advantage of them, he might as well join in and grab some of them. Otherwise, when Ningyu killed the Thunder Pellet King, he wouldn't even be able to touch a hair. Rumble. Lin Lang wielded a silvery white flying sword and charged left and right. Not long after, the Thunder Pellet King and the other sky-billowing Immortal Kingdom martial artists were all killed. Only the Thunder Pellet King and Lin Lang were left on the battlefield. Damn it! The Thunder Pellet King took a few steps back and turned his head to look at the fallen sky-billowing Immortal Kingdom martial artists. His expression turned extremely ugly. Originally, he thought that Ningyu was very strong and took a great risk to kill Ningyu. Who would have thought? The young martial artist standing next to Ning Yu was as strong as Ning Yu. That's right. You deserve to die. Lin Lang shrugged and charged out again with the silvery white flying sword in his hand. Hua! In an instant, several sword lights separated from the silver-white flying sword and attacked the Thunder Core monarch all at once. Crack! In the nick of time, the Thunder Pellet King did not panic. Instead, he took out a pill and threw it into his mouth. Boom! The moment the pill entered his mouth, the Thunder Pellet King's aura soared again. Bang! 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 Along with a series of muffled sounds. The Thunder Pellet King's aura was close to a true half-step immortal king. At this rate, the Thunder Pellet King only needed a little more time, and his aura would break through to the half-step immortal king realm. However, at this moment, a shadow flashed past Lin Lang and appeared in front of the Thunder Pellet King in the blink of an eye. Puff! The shadow suddenly punched out with his right hand and hit the Thunder Pellet King's head. What the F***CK? Seeing the Thunder Pellet King's miserable state, Lin Lang could not help but curse. The reason why he attacked was because he wanted the Thunder Pellet King's treasures, pills, and the energy in his body. But now, Ningyu attacked and killed the Thunder Pellet King while he was raising his aura. The Thunder Pellet King's treasures, pills, and energy all fell into Ningyu's hands. Don't be nervous. Chapter 2350. At least you know what's good for you. Lin Lang rolled his eyes at Ningyu. Immediately, he unleashed the terrifying devouring power within his body and started to devour the Thunder Pill King. Chi, just like Ningyu. In just 3 seconds, the Thunder Pellet King was devoured into a piece of human skin. Swoosh! After the skin was devoured, a spatial ring fell to the ground. The Thunder Pellet King reacted quickly and caught the ring before it fell to the ground. Not bad. Lin Lang used his perception to probe the contents of the ring and nodded in satisfaction. The Thunder Pellet King lived up to his name. There were hundreds of elixirs in the ring. Although they weren't Immortal King grade, most of them were peak Heavenly Monarch grade. I can use them to break through to the half-step Immortal King realm. The dissatisfaction towards Ningyu in Lin Lang's mind was completely swept away. He had been looking for resources to break through to the half-step Immortal King realm before entering the Immortal Court. After all, the Immortal Court was a dangerous place. He would die a horrible death if he wasn't careful. As long as he could break through to the half-step Immortal King realm, he could live a carefree life in the Immortal Court. Du Shibing, are the 2 helpers I hired at a high price okay? Typhon was the most excited about the death of the Thunder Pellet King and marvelous mathematician. He smirked and said to Du Shibing, I'm afraid even you won't be able to handle Ningyu and Lin Lang together. Du Shibing tried his best to stay calm. He had just reached the half-step Immortal King realm, so the immortal chi in his body wasn't stable. In other words, his overall combat strength was only slightly stronger than a pseudo half-step Immortal King. Otherwise, he could defeat Ningyu and Lin Lang on his own without the help of marvelous mathematician and Thunder Pellet King. We don't want to get involved in your fight for now. How could Ningyu not know what Typhon was thinking? He was using him and Lin Lang as a shield to stop Du Shibing. Ningyu didn't want to help others. He waved his hand and said, without our participation, Typhon will be easily defeated or even killed. Typhon's face turned extremely cold. He wanted Du Shibing and Ningyu to fight, but Ningyu actually chose to stay neutral. What about you? Ningyu pursed his lips and said, You just said that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. We're already doing you a great favor by not joining hands with Du Shibing. Don't tell me you want us to join hands with Du Shibing to deal with you? Why are you talking nonsense with him? Let's watch the show first. Lin Lang retreated to an empty space behind him and started fiddling with the Thunder Pellet King's spatial ring. Hey, give me some pills. Don't think about eating them all by yourself. Ningyu was very dissatisfied with Lin Lang, muttering as he walked towards him. Sha. Du Shibing glanced at Ningyu and Lin Lang, before walking towards Typhon. Du Shibing might be walking slowly, but the pressure he gave Typhon was very strong, because no matter what, Du Shibing was also a half-step immortal king, while Typhon was just a fake half-step immortal king. Damn it, all of you go. Seeing Du Shibing walking towards him, Typhon hurriedly shouted, I'll give anyone who can touch Du Shibing a portion of Ironwood Divine Spring. Boom! Typhon's words moved the martial artists at the peak of the heavenly monarch realm at the edge of the altar. With a great reward, there would always be a brave man. If Typhon asked them to kill Du Shibing, they naturally didn't have the ability to do so. But now that they only met Du Shibing, they were confident. After all, their cultivation was at the peak of the heavenly monarch realm, which was not much different from Du Shibing. If he just touched it, the danger should be very low. Whoosh! Only a few martial artists at the peak of the heavenly monarch realm responded to Typhon's first order. But this time, there were more than a dozen martial artists at the peak of the heavenly monarch realm who attacked Du Shibing. Oomph! Heaven's sins can be forgiven, but one's own sins cannot be forgiven. Du Shibing snorted coldly. Immediately, the immortal chi in his body wrapped around his fist, and he increased his speed to the limit. Bang! 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 A series of crisp and clear sounds rang out. More than a dozen martial artists at the peak of the heavenly monarch realm were all defeated by Du Shibing and fell heavily to the ground. Some of the weaker martial artists died on the spot. Even the few that survived had weak auras and were on the brink of death. For a portion of Ironwood Divine Spring, these people really didn't care about their lives. Typhon, I'll give you a chance to live. Du Shibing casually killed these trash, blocking his way, and looked at Typhon quietly. He said, Submit to me, and I can promise you the position of the great general of the heavenly kingdom. Typhon spat out a mouthful of saliva and said coldly, Sooner or later, I will kill my way to the soaring sky immortal empire and kill everyone there. You are determined to go against the Imperial Advisor, aren't you? Du Shibing said in a deep voice. Imperial Advisor? Ha ha! Typhon threw his head back and laughed maniacally. After laughing, Typhon changed the topic and shouted coldly, When my father recovers, it will be the time of Du Shida's death. Is that so? However, just as Typhon's voice fell, an indifferent voice rang in his ears. Swoosh! Hearing this, Typhon's expression changed drastically. Du Shida. Obviously, the person who spoke was the Imperial Advisor of the Heavenly Kingdom, Du Shida. Like Tai Muyu, Du Shida's cultivation was a genuine half-step immortal king. However, Du Shida was not injured and was in his peak condition. In this case, once Du Shida came to the number 1 private room, the consequences would be unimaginable. Sneaky bastard, come out if you dare. Typhon forced himself to calm down and said, A clown that only knows how to hide in the dark. He can't even show himself. As you wish. Kacha! The void trembled. Then, a gray-robed old man slowly appeared in front of everyone. Immortal King? The moment they saw the old man in gray, Ning Yu's and Lin Lang's expressions changed dramatically. According to their observation, the aura emitted by the old man in gray seemed to have touched the threshold of Immortal King. At this moment, there was only one thought in their minds. They wanted to confirm whether the old man in gray was a real Immortal King. If the old man in gray was an Immortal King, they would definitely retreat immediately without hesitation. Because against an Immortal King, even if the Immortal King suppressed his aura to the half-step Immortal King realm, they had no chance of winning. Not an Immortal King. Soon, Ning Yu received Ning Lu's voice transmission from the Red Devil Sword. Ning Lu was the World Tree. As his cultivation increased, he had more memories in his mind. According to his judgment, the old man in gray was not a real Immortal King, but a half-step Immortal King. He was only half a step away from the Immortal King realm. In other words, the old man in gray's current strength had reached the limit that this continent could bear. If he was any stronger, the space of this continent would completely shatter. Generally speaking, A powerful martial artist like the Old Man in Gray would not leave the immortal court unless there was something very important. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.